Yeah.
I just rewatched it this morning.
Nice.
I was gonna say yesterday I rewatched the last 7 episodes of season 6 because my friend had only seen the first 6 episodes.
Right.
He deliberately didn't watch episode 7 because he said he had heard episode 7 ends on a massive cliffhanger, so we refused to watch episode 7 until today when we could watch all the episodes together.
Bruh, somehow my friends do not like Better Call Saul because it's too slow for the first season, and I'm like, bruh.
Your friends have terrible taste, Ethan. That has been established quite well by this point.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Also, hey people, we're live.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, and it's time to stop the slurs, Ethan. You can continue after.
I didn't say any slurs.
Sure you did.
Can we collude with the anti-Semitic remarks, guys?
Yeah, jeez. Yeah, no. Hello, everyone.
Look,
hey.
You're the one who said I need to make up for Jeb's racism, all right?
That's conjecture. I never said that. Hearsay. Instead of talking about Better Call Saul, we're just gonna reenact Better Call Saul here live on stream. But no.
I'm fine with that.
But yeah, no. Hello, everyone. We're gonna talk about the Methverse. Because yeah, it's great. But yeah, and Jeb isn't here because he sucks and he hasn't seen Better Call Saul. But
outside.
Yeah, but we're joined here by Ethan. Say hi, Ethan.
Hello.
Hello. Ethan's first time on ECUM, so yeah, let's go. And Grant, also your first time. Yeah, it is your first time, right?
Yeah, I think so. Hi.
Hi.
It's me, Grant. But I've been a longtime fan of ECUM, so.
Oh yes.
Oh, me too, though.
It's 10. You didn't have to type back because we heard you smacking your keyboard. So.
You can just announce yourself. It's okay.
Yeah, but yeah. Today we're here to talk about all 3 of the properties in the Breaking Bad universe. Isn't that fun? This is really fun. But before we do, I don't know, Ethan and Grant, if you're familiar with it, but we have this thing called the recommendation corner, where we talk about something that we watched recently that we'd like to recommend. Ideally, not something we're gonna cover today, so I wouldn't say you should recommend Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, or El Camino. But you know, if you want,
I would definitely not recommend the Slip and Jimmy TV show because that thing is ass.
Every video I've seen on that is funny. But anyway,
what are you talking about? That show is amazing.
Can't stand it.
But yeah, so the recommendation corner. Unfortunately for Ethan, his name starts. His name makes him go before 10. So yeah, you're the first one because we go from left to right. So what do you recommend, Ethan?
Prey, because I've watched that 3 times now, and it's a phenomenal fucking movie. Like, watch it. It's better than the original Predator. Go watch it, please.
Yes, I agree. Prey is fantastic. Alright, yo. 10. What do you have for a recommendation corner?
Right. For my recommendation corner, I'm gonna recommend The Sandman, which is like Sky's also been watching it. It's like a. I'm pretty sure you've seen on all over Twitter. It's like a adaptation of like a Neil Gaiman's comic from the 80s, and I fucking love the show. I fucking adore it.
It's amazing.
Like I watched all of it in like a span of like a few days, and like it's just phenomenal. Like I would so want to cover this on like a stream or something, or just to talk about it. Like I fucking love it. Every part of it is just brilliant because like it's Neil Gaiman, so of course it's gonna be brilliant. But fucking watch it. It's absolutely brilliant, and it needs a season 2, please.
I'm halfway through the season. I agree. It's really good. I just have not had the time to finish it, but yeah, 10 is being very based here. I really like the show. And as you can tell by my profile picture being Johanna Constantine from the show. It's been there for a while, but I haven't changed it even after watching the show, so that should tell you something. But yeah, Grant, what is your recommendation for the recommendation corner? Oh, he muted himself. Well, I guess it's my turn. Hmm. I have many things to recommend, I guess, because I've watched a lot of shit. Um, I agree with Ethan with Prey. I like it more than the original Predator. I don't care. I just think it's really great. I watched it twice now. Um, I finished season 2 of Sex Education. That was fantastic. Finale was brilliant. I loved um Harley Quinn season 3 has been great as well, so I would recommend that. Uh hmm. I am
I'm
much
sorry.
yeah.
I know I was up for recommendation corner. I actually, I just had to talk to someone really quick. I didn't come prepared for that, but I just wanted to do this one just to annoy all of ECUM.
Mm.
Uh, Jordan Peele's Nope, because it's incredible. It's an amazing movie, and I don't care.
Hey, look, we haven't seen that yet. Well, Ethan has, but the rest of us haven't seen that yet. So I can't say. Maybe it is good. Maybe Jordan Peele finally made a good film. Um, who knows?
I would say he didn't, but maybe Grant can convince me otherwise because I just did not enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
Well, I understand not enjoying it. I just think most of the criticisms I've heard from it haven't been very good. That's all.
Fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my recommendation will be Succession. I have started season 2 with Zach, Thought Theater, and that has been really good. It's just a really, really fantastic show. I really love it. Just the fact that like a lot of it is improvisation, but also a lot of it is based on like very thoroughly like crafted scripts. It's a very interesting show in that sense, and it does a lot with its characters with a very like loose structure. It's like controlled chaos is how I describe it, and it's really good. I love it.
I'm so glad they're showing you that show. Season 3 is honestly my favorite season.
Oh yeah, I've heard season 3 is phenomenal from Zach. I am really excited to get to that. Zod, what do you have to recommend in the recommendation corner?
I'm gonna go with. Believe it or not, I'm going to go with a CW show.
Oh my god.
I know. Yeah, Superman and Lois.
Oh my god, yes.
It's actually like much better than you expect it to be. Like, if you want a story about a Superman who doesn't, hate everyone around him and try and kill everyone, then that's something that's going to be good for you.
If there's ever an ECUM on Superman and Lois, I better be on there because I will gush about that show for hours.
I think his name's Tyler Hoechlin or something, however you pronounce it.
Yes.
He does an incredible job in the role. Like, it really just has that level of charm, and it really does carry it so well. He's very underappreciated, and I know there's like you always get this fucking Snyder people on Twitter that try and compare him and Henry Cavill, try and make him look like a pussy, but his Superman is just like infinitely better than Snyder's, and
Not a high bar to be fair, but
that's true, but still. It's not even just him, like all the characters are just excellent. It's definitely the highlight of the show. They do great with it. And just even production wise, it's just so much of a massive step up to other CW shows. You've got zero clue how that happened. But yeah, like they actually put effort into like stuff like direction and making it not look ugly. Gotta appreciate that. But yeah, but the Flash is always going to be the best CW show, obviously. So.
Oh yeah,
Obviously.
sorry, go on.
Well, obviously it's the best one because It's because it's just the best. That's why.
I mean, that's sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Gotta love
What a
that
great
circular logic.
explanation.
Yeah, and I love that. But no, what I wanted to say was that also I Am Groot came out and I watched that and it's fun. I like it. Um, there's nothing like groundbreaking. It doesn't add a lot in terms of character, but it's fun. So if you like Groot, you should watch it. And it has some really impressive CGI. So yeah, that's what I had to
Baby
say.
Groot cute.
Baby Groot is cute.
Also, Madvocate said something funny in chat.
Ridiculous.
Oh shit! Hey, it's Barry Allen. I ignored you. Come Flash 18. Watching dumb haters hate on the 9.8 out of 10 episode. You know, good for you,
Hi,
Barry.
Allen.
That episode is like, wait, is that the episode with Fuck, it's the one that just came out. So
the most recent one you just did.
yeah, it is. So that episode has the man in the yellow tie and Mina Dawan becoming
yeah.
like Flash. Yeah, it's a very fun episode where nothing makes sense and Barry acts like a moron. So it's a regular, Flash episode. It's fine.
I realized I said this man is a 9.7 out of 10 show. No one's woke.
Oh
since
yeah, it's
Barry
funny.
Allen.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, you just gotta admit you made a woke show, Neil Gaiman, even though it's good." You're like, okay, what? It's
Oh right, yeah, because of that incident.
Oh yeah, I don't think we've mentioned this on ECUM because that
Yeah,
happened a while back, and it was before
it
after we recorded all the
It
reactions.
happened while I was on Scotland, I think, where
Yeah,
Neil fucking Gaiman
Neil-
tweeted Barry Allen.
yeah, that was fun.
That's the best moment in all of Ecom. I'm gonna be honest. That's just amazing.
Oh man. Yeah, we mentioned this on ECUM because that happened a while back. Why am I hearing myself?
Great question.
Did you have the stream open, Ethan?
I accidentally opened it.
Yeah. Also,
You twat.
Also, Ethan sent a super chat, and I forgot to mention. But yeah, thanks, Ethan. You do know that you can like talk with your voice, so we can hear you, right? You don't
It's
actually,
like a high
you don't have to
thing.
send us money, but I thank you anyway.
Yeah, no problem. Literally offered to pay for a plane ticket for you, so I don't know what you expect.
I mean that's fair. Alrighty. I think. Wait, let me just see because I actually don't know what you said in the super chat, so I'm opening it here.
Nothing too
Lol,
bad.
this podcast sucks. So thank you, Ethan. Very very
Of
cool.
course.
All right, so God damn it. All right, so I think right now we're ready to start talking about these shows. Starting with Breaking Bad. Hey, I deafened myself to show the intro. I should have warned before, but yeah, I made the intro, guys. Isn't that cool? I spent time making this, so please appreciate it. I also had to test it last night if it wasn't gonna be caught by copyright. I hope it doesn't, because it hasn't so far. But yeah, Breaking Bad, guys. What do you think about Breaking Bad? Open floor to talk about whatever you want in regards to that show.
Pretty lame show, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, compared to Better Call Saul, it's like nothing.
Yeah, no, Breaking Bad is amazing. I mean, everyone knows that. But one thing that I do really find interesting is how I think a lot of the perception around the show has maybe not changed, but it's definitely been like opposite to what Vince Gilligan wanted the story should be about. Because the story is all about like criticizing that pride and like toxic masculinity type of shit from Walter, but everyone like treating Walter as like this symbol of like the Sigma male and shit. Obviously, some of it is memes, but some of it is people who actually take Walt seriously as like a role model, and I find it really funny because the show is not treating him as being
I actually
badass.
know somebody like
Yeah.
that. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's weird because the show is not treating Walter as being badass. There are many moments where he's fucking pathetic, and that's like the point. It's because he's a loser. He's trying to just like appeal to his own pride, which is the entire point of the show because he does this. because he thought he hadn't made anything out of his life. Which is interesting because I watched American Beauty this week, and it's kind of the same thing as Kevin Spacey's character in that film, where he just kind of lets you like, he's like, oh, I haven't done anything with my life yet, or as he says in El Camino, right? It was like, oh, you didn't have to wait your entire life to do something meaningful. Also, sorry if my voice is shit. People watching, I'm sick. I forgot to mention that.
I hope you die.
Yeah, me too.
Did you get the COVID?
I did not actually. I
did.
I just have the flu. Oh yeah. But yeah, I do really like Breaking Bad. I think it is a very, very great character study, and I've been rewatching the show with the audio commentaries, and it's really interesting how they made the show with like a very loose plan for it. Because like obviously they had the idea that Vince Gilligan has said many times, turn Mr. Chips into Scarface, but like how the story leads there, it changed so much from the original plan because they weren't really sure if the show was going to be picked up or if it gather interest and whatnot. Like originally the show was rejected by, I think it was Fox FX, and then it went to AMC, and I imagine Fox is like, fuck, I want to die after that.
Yeah, because there was also the writer's strike that happened like through the first season, so that's why the first season was so much shorter. And then I think I remember seeing an interview where Bob Odenkirk was talking about it possibly getting canceled at one point, and Vince Gilligan was also talking about how they'd write themselves into corners all the time and just figure it out, and that's how they wrote the show a lot of the time, which good on them with how well it turned out.
Yeah, it's like good on you for having the ability to write yourself out of these corners, but fucking hell, that's not how you should write a show. And they know it, to be fair, but they also kind of did the same with Better Call Saul. It wasn't really that planned. Because originally Better Call Saul wasn't going to be the show that it is. It was supposed to be like a short comedy show with like skits with Saul as the main character with a bunch of celebrity cameos when the show was ordered by AMC. And then it turned out it should be, what it was. It's really insane how the mind of Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould works. Also, what the fuck do you mean about removing your comments? I'm not removing any comments. I wasn't paying attention to the chat. Look, if you say something that's offensive, it's not going to show on chat because I have top chat on. But it's probably going to show in live chat. So yeah, I'm not.
Maybe you should pay attention to your chat because audience interaction is important. You fucking asshole.
I was talking about the show.
90% of our audience is just Barry.
I mean, that's true, yeah.
That's fair.
He literally uses our comment as his version of Twitter.
I mean, yeah, he quit Twitter, so he needs it. But anyway, Grant, what's your favorite season of Breaking Bad?
I was actually gonna say I actually kind of have an unpopular opinion. I actually like season 4 more than 5.
Oh, is that unpopular?
I know. Yeah, I think pretty much everyone, like most people I've seen and that I've talked to, say that season 5 is the best season.
Huh.
Like everyone agrees that season 4 is like really close, but I think everyone, at least that I've spoken to, pretty much unanimously agreed that season 5 is the best.
Interesting.
And one thing that I was thinking about, because I was talking about this with my friends yesterday, I feel like Breaking Bad, like you were saying before, it's a really good character study, but I feel like it's misunderstood by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like especially when it comes to Walt, like he's not meant to be looked at as this badass criminal drug lord. I don't think at all. Like he has these like really cool moments and everything, but in reality, it's just a facade, and he's like, what Mike says, he's just a total amateur at the end of the day. And like also,
I mean, just real quick, because I remember I talked to you about it, the I am the danger scene, where it's like the one most misinterpreted scene of the show, I think, is what we said, because people think, oh, see, Walt's being a badass, but even he's like, no, he's trying to pretend he's the one in control when he knows he's in fucking danger of being killed, like, very soon.
Yeah, no. he's in deep shit. Like he's just trying to pretend for his wife that he's not. And it's like it's completely like just like that's why I really like that scene. But I think at the end of the day, he is very much an amateur, but also he's definitely not meant to be looked at as like a paragon, because I know a lot of people, at least until season 5, a lot of people before that though say like that Walt like the decisions he made like were justified before season 5, and like he had to do all the stuff that he was doing to protect himself and his family, and I just think that's so wrong. like I don't.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of like Vince, especially Vince Bob Odenkirk talking about, and I was watching the audio commentary last night of episode 305, and they were talking about how like they were very surprised by how so many people stayed on Walt's side, or they stay on a character side even after they do horrible shit, and that's just like because of like performance in terms of like from the actors, or just like making the characters likable despite their very clear like moral failings. And Walt especially is really interesting because I think a lot of people feel that he becomes a villain by the end of the show, and there's like this arc, whereas I feel like he always had it in him, like in the entire show. It just became more apparent, like he let himself become that version of himself, I guess, that he wanted to be. That's kind of how I see Walt. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, Walt, I think, is one of the most complex characters of the show, but I think another one that I was thinking about that is heavily, like, misunderstood is Hank.
I knew you were going to say him, yeah. I wanted to mention him afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's one of my favorite characters because, he kind of starts off in a way where it's like you're supposed to look at him as, like, the hero of the show, essentially. He's not, obviously Walt's the protagonist, but he's like the villain,
Yeah.
And Hank is like almost the antagonist, but he's a hero. And I honestly don't really see Hank that way. I think he's much more nuanced than that, because he actually does a lot of really bad things throughout the show. Like, I think the most obvious one is like when he breaks down Jesse's door and like beats him almost to death. That's like probably his lowest point. But even after that, something that I feel like I don't see very many people talking about is his decision to pursue Walt. And while that being like in season 5, after he finds out that Walt is Heisenberg, I think what's so great about that is that like you can't expect him to just let this go because of all the trauma that he's suffered. And you completely understand why he is this persistent with Walt, but at the same time, his actions actually cause quite a bit of unintended stuff. Like, I actually think him pursuing Walt is ultimately what led to not only Jesse getting enslaved by Jack and his men, but also he kind of inadvertently caused a bunch of harm for his family in the process of doing this. Obviously, like he, Walter Jr. and Holly have like really, kind of terrible lives now by the end of the show. And yes, that's also most definitely because of everything that Walt did. But I was also just sort of thinking about what would have happened in this show. Like, how much would characters be different if Hank went about this in a different way with Walt?
Yeah, it's his obsession, his obsessive nature is definitely something that like comes back a lot in the show, like with the fucking minerals, which is, the running joke, but it's also like he wants something to like put his mind on when he's recovering, and he can't, because he can't put his mind on a case because, well, he's recovering, he's not at work, and so he's just like, oh yeah, minerals. And Marie always
Yeah.
like emasculating him, and obviously him being someone who's very vain, I guess, in that sense, that he always has to be the manly man, the guy who takes care of himself. He doesn't want to be taken care of by Marie, and so that causes him more and more to like become distant from Marie, or obsess about trying to find Heisenberg. Which is also something I really loved about him finding out that Heisenberg is Walt, is him while he's shitting. Because it's such a like, he's put so much effort into this. And then you find out that it was just like right under his nose while he's like at his most, like a very vulnerable moment. I'd say that shitting is a moment where you're quite vulnerable. It's all his masculine moment. Like, it's not something grandiose where he finds out and he's, after he like puts all the pieces together like a fucking detective film. It's that he is shitting and he gets a book and is like, oh fuck. And his trauma acting up. Like, it's not this moment where he's like, I got you now, and it's very triumphant. It's very, very traumatic for him. And then after he meets Walt and realizing like his nature of like being very like having that toxic masculinity vibe from him as he talks to Walt, and being like, oh, I didn't notice you because I thought like you would never be the one to do it, because he never expected Walt to do something like that, to be something more than just a chemistry teacher who does like nothing with his life. I find it's just such a really interesting way to tie these two characters, like, I guess on a thematic level, just to showcase like Hank's character flaws, and to kind of explain and understand how he was able to, how Walt was able to evade his brother for so long. It's something I find quite interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's a
His brother was
weird
lost
thing.
for.
He wanted to be the one to catch him. Like, he wanted to be the one to slap the handcuffs on him and everything.
I think especially after the shit in Texas, where he comes back and he's like, he has a post-traumatic stress disorder, and he's like trying to deal with that. He like fully throws himself in the search of Heisenberg. He wants to like prove that he's still the man for the job. He's still fully equipped to to like be the one to take care of this. It's like, no, it's not that I don't want to go back there. It's just that I'm doing something so important here, because his pride can't take the fact that he actually is like suffering a lot from what happened with Tortuga and his mates at in Texas.
Yeah, and I feel
Tuco, not to mention, like, Tuco, when he killed him, he was like having some deep stress over that shit too.
Oh yeah, yeah. When they gave him his fucking gold teeth, and
his grill, as they
Grill,
call it.
yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously he thought it was cool at first because, like, oh, it's a trophy and I did that shit. But then, like, eventually it just starts getting to him and he just fucking chucks it out.
Yep, I really like that. Yeah, I really like Hank. I think he's like the perfect example of like the way the show really like talks about toxic masculinity, in that sense, where you're supposed to be a man that doesn't care about these things. Like, if you're a man, you shouldn't care about like this shit. You should be masculine, which is also something that is brought on by like other characters in the show, like with when Gus tells, when he's trying to convince Walt, he's like, what does a man do? A man provides for his family. There's always this appeal to like this pride, this toxic masculinity, this American way, of like, oh, you have to be a manly man, someone strong that provides, and you can't let your feelings show. You do everything for your family.
Yeah, I mean, what an American job too. Like, I get to make fun of Hispanics on the job and get away with it because they're selling drugs. Hell yeah, sign me up.
Well, that's a very common theme just throughout this show in general. Like, I think not as much in Better Call Saul, more so in Breaking Bad, even though I think some of that is still present in Better Call Saul, but the whole thing that I was just thinking about with Hank was that this pursuit of his is in a way kind of a selfish desire, because like like obviously it's not the wrong thing to do. He's catching like one of the worst people out there, but he's doing it in a way that's really kind of selfish and prideful. Because I was just thinking, like, if he did this in a different way where it's like he actually maybe went to the DEA and maybe would have taken longer like to get Walt perhaps, but like if he actually got more people involved and like just did this in a way that didn't necessarily end with him being the one who catches him, then I think maybe like it would have changed so many things, because like Walt still would have gotten captured and thrown in jail and gotten everything that he deserved.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, like, you know, their families' lives wouldn't be ruined. Steve Gomez would probably still be alive, and obviously Marie wouldn't be a widow, and Walt Jr. and Holly would probably be better off, and then also Jesse probably would never.
Oh yeah, he would never have been enslaved. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, poor Jesse. I love that guy.
Yeah. When we talk about El Camino, Jesse, yeah, Jesse's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we talk about, you know, these main characters, I guess, but this show has some amazing villains. I think one that people don't talk about as much is because, you know, he didn't have as much time, but I still think he made like a humongous impact on the show was Tuco in season 1. In the show, I guess. I feel like he's such a phenomenal character to like showcase, I guess, the horrors of being in the drug business, as to like just being someone who's so fucking unhinged that like Walt and Jesse just cannot deal with them properly, and they end up in the fucking worst situation possible because of that. So yeah, I really like Tuco, and I like that we saw him again in Better Call Saul as well.
I think with the show's villains, they do a really good job with 3 in particular. Tuco, Gus, obviously, and Todd, really showcasing like all like 3 very different ways of intimidation that each of them use to like get what they want, and it's brilliant because Tuco's is mostly with violence, Gus is like through his intellect, and Todd is just through like just being a sociopath, because like I don't know how else to describe it other than that, but just like the way he is, they're all so different, and it's just so great how the 3 contrast with each other.
Yeah, and then when you add Better Call Saul to it with Lalo especially, I'm like, Jesus, these characters, they have so much to them. Like each of them, despite being fucking like monsters, they're still like completely different in the way that they are. I really like the way Vince and Peter Gould write their villains. And
Lala,
sorry,
Angel, and Todd is Satan.
Yeah.
But in terms of that as well, as you mentioned, Gus, obviously, I feel like he's a very interesting character. It just like the way the show explores him and uses like his tragic past to be a driving motivation for him, and that's how Walt ends up beating him. Because it's just like I remember hearing a lot about how they were writing it so that they could find a way that for Walt to beat Gus, and Gus is like always like many steps ahead of Walt. So how would they get him to do that? And just adding this tragic element to his past that ends up making him more vulnerable, like having a blind spot, I guess, in that sense. Being what causes his downfall is just, I think, just like a really genius move in terms of like writing. I find that really great
The
writing.
writing there was certainly up to Pollo standards.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think Giancarlo Esposito obviously is a huge part why Gus is like so amazing, so loved as a character, because he adds this like threatening aura to him, even when he isn't doing anything threatening, when he smiles, you know that he isn't like happy. You can tell what's behind that smile, and it's something that is just like so, I guess, iconic of him. By this point, of having that default face that is just like makes you want to like hide for the rest of your life, so you don't end up on his bad side. And the way that Walt ended up on his bad side at the end of season 3 and just like try to deal with that after killing Gale and be like, oh, I guess we're dealing with this now. Like the entire season, have to deal with that cat and mouse chase. And I do love as well that it's like it becomes about their pride in a sense, because I think the show is a lot about like how one person's pride can be their downfall. And I guess especially after seeing Better Call Saul and knowing like more of the history with how Hector ended up in the wheelchair and how Gus had a hand in keeping him there as opposed to like letting him die, is like, oh, you, if you had done that, you wouldn't have like caused your own downfall. But he wants to humiliate Hector, and it's just I think it's like it brings him more of a, it makes it tie together, I think, thematically better when it's like criticizing the way characters can be so prideful and how that can ultimately cause their own problems, their own demise, I guess. So
Oh,
yeah.
100%. And I mean, like,
Very-
kind of back to the writing aspect of it. I mean, so people might disagree, but like with a show like The Boys, they got Giancarlo Esposito to play Stan Edgar, and I feel like the reason they did is because like he played Gus Fring as like a businessman, like kind of a devious one, and like sure people may not say Stan Edgar is like Gus Fring, but to me it kind of feels like that's the reason they got him to play that role is because he already played someone like a devious businessman,
Uh-huh.
and the writing just is not all there with the boys, unfortunately. And so it just feels like, oh, you're trying to be Gus Fring, but like the writing is just not great. And so I don't feel it like I did in Breaking Bad, which just shows how great Vince Gilligan is at like writing these characters.
Yeah, I agree. It's sad that he gets these roles now because of Breaking Bad, because I was watching the commentary last night, and in episode 1 when he shows up, Bryan Cranston's like, oh, it's the first time we see him this season. And he's like, oh, Aaron Paul was like, oh, I worked with Giancarlo on a film like ages ago where I ended up killing him, and he plays like the nicest guy. And it's nice that in this show he can play like the complete opposite and still like work fine. I'm like, yeah, he has a lot of range that that other shows don't explore. But I feel like Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad really did. I think season 6 when you have that scene of him in the bar, that where he's a little bit fruity. I think that scene is phenomenal at showing like his range. Honestly,
Yeah, it's like a cautionary tale in a way about pride and like just the way that like how you were describing where it's like pretty consistent characters being prideful is one of the reasons why I actually find the finale of Better Call Saul to be like really satisfying, but we'll get to that.
uh-huh.
Also,
Yeah.
like with the whole pride aspect, Mike calls it out perfectly just before his death in I forget what episode it's called of Breaking Bad, but like
Say
when
my name.
Walter like says, you know, he does it for his family and stuff like that, but like Mike can see right through it, you know. He calls him out. He's like, "You've got this pride in your ego. You're a ticking time bomb." And Mike can absolutely call him out there because with Better Call Saul, we kind of see that he kind of does this kind of thing for his family too, but he doesn't like get all prideful and egotistical about it. He's
Yeah,
purely for that aspect. So when he's calling Walt out, he knows what the fuck he's talking about, and it's a really good callback into Breaking Bad there.
yeah, that's the thing with Mike. I saw someone summed up where like Mike is what Walter thinks he is. Like he's doing it for his family. He's this doing it for doing this for his family. He's got this. He's not a bad person or anything like that. He's just doing it all for his family. Just kind of all for his family. It's like that's the sort of thing I think with that scene where it's like, because like it's having all this pride and shit just flown back in his face by someone who I wouldn't say he looks up to, but I guess like thinks he gets, since they both sort of do it for their families. Since
I would say he kind of looks up to him in a sense because I think he models a lot of what he does based on Mike's like pragmatism. He wants to be the same way, but he's obviously not because of his being so prideful, which is why in season 3 that ends up causing their downfall. It's Walt's like hunger and greed and all to satisfy his pride, as he says. You know, I'm in this for the empire business, not the math business or whatever.
yeah, exactly, yeah, because of that one bloody mistake with Grey Matter, which, as we'll find out in Better Call Saul, he's still not fucking over it by the time we get to his last appearance.
I mean, to be fair, we knew that in Breaking Bad. He came back to Albuquerque for a very specific reason at the end of Breaking Bad, which was after the events that Better Call Saul showed. But I get what you mean. Gray matter is something that has like plagued his mind for ages. Something he's thought about a lot, and that's hurt his pride so much that he justifies everything like that he's doing it for his family when it's all because he wants to prove that he can do something with his mind because he thinks he's that good. Because of what gray matter did to him, or at least what he thinks they did to him. Regardless of whether or not like they did actually sabotage him or not. Because as far as I know, I don't think there's any evidence that they actually did anything wrong, right? It's just that he keeps saying that they tried to flush him out of the company and whatnot when it was his choice to sell it.
I was gonna say, yeah,
because according to Vince Gilligan, right, the reason he left was because like he was of course engaged to
Skyler.
What's her name? No, the other one.
Gretchen. Yeah.
Gretchen. They were engaged, right? And like they met at like a 4th of July thing, and he was embarrassed because he has barely any money and she's rich, so like it hurt his pride.
Yeah.
It's like he's like got nothing, and that's why he sold his shares. So like, it absolutely was his fault. It was his own choice. So that him pinning it on Gretchen in that is just absolutely him compensating for the fact that he can't own up to the fact he made a mistake.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
And in one
100%.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say it really quickly, especially after season 6, that scene with Walt at the end. I definitely think it's pretty confirmed that it was absolutely Walt's pride in his own doing. Like, they did not screw him over like he says they did.
Yeah.
I mean, so one of the things that really hit home for me in the show, like I don't see a lot of people talk about it, but like if it really was just about the family, right? He would not have called like this whole meth business his life's work. Like he calls it that in one of the episodes. And I think that really is like a missed line that not enough people talk about, because if it was just for his family, you would not be calling that your life's work at all. Like that is very obviously something he is proud of and he is happy to have been doing if he's going to call it his life's work that he's put in front of him.
Well, it's kind of what I was thinking about that when I was watching El Camino last night, because he says to Jesse, at least you didn't have to wait your entire life to do something meaningful. And that kind of makes you feel like, oh man, because of your pursuit of like having something with meaning in your life, you caused the downfall of Jesse's life. Like you destroyed this kid's life because you wanted to create this empire when all he wanted was like to pay to make some money. Like you absolutely destroyed Jesse's life just because of your own pride. And I felt like a very like tragic, sad moment where he's like he's projecting his own desire to do something meaningful onto Jesse, because like, oh, you know, you can do many things. Like you still have your whole life ahead of you. Where he's trying to justify it with like, it's the end of my life, so whatever. Like I'm gonna die because of cancer. So it is quite like Walt throughout the entire show. I feel like he never once was like actually doing it for his family. He did it for a sense of pride, and he used his family to justify it even in season 1, because he says, "Oh, I need to make $737,000, and then I'm out of the business." But it's the kind of thing where like he gets into this business and he's making all these calculations, but he's never able to quit. He's always like, "Oh, I want to do more." like he could have done many things with his life. Choosing to do something like this is obviously because he wants to, you know, break bad. He wants to create this sense for himself that he is a man, that he accomplished something, that he is special, rather than just being like, oh, you know, I made money some other way. I'm gonna leave my family money through, you know, maybe going to work a great manner. Like they offered him a job. It's like, no, that job isn't like he could have gone there, made a lot of money, and provided for his family. But no, he wanted to do something for himself. So that's why he lied about taking money from Gretchen, because he's like, no, I'm not actually gonna take money from you. You ruined my life, and I'm gonna provide for my family my own way. I'm gonna be the provider. And I don't know. Yeah, I really like the way the entire show has this massive ego, and it just gets showcased more and more as the show progresses. To a point where in season 5, Jesse, you know, when Jesse starts to hate him, you're like, holy crap! Like he doesn't really care about Jesse, does he? All he was a tool for Walt. Even when, like, and we thought he cared about Jesse. There are moments where he does, but it's more like he doesn't care. He says, "Oh, you should kill Jesse," or when and Ozymandias like, just kill Jesse for me, and then he confesses to watching Jane die, which is like, phew, that's a big deal. And then at the end, I feel like he really wanted to get to like kill Jesse as well, until, like in Felina, until Jesse came out and he saw like what the Nazis had done to him, and he was like, holy crap, I ruined this kid's life, like, what am I doing? It's I guess finally a moment of clarity from him, I guess, when he jumps
Also,
up
like
to
the very beginning of when they first decide to get together. Because I mean, like, I feel like some people forget, like, they didn't make the decision to get together. Walt literally blackmailed him into doing it.
Oh
at
yeah,
first. He's like,
yeah.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
turn you in if you don't like help me do this. And he's just like, well, shit, what do I do then?
Yeah. Yeah, Walt and Jesse's relationship is really interesting because I feel a lot of people see it as like this very, like, oh, they're just having fun, and like, yeah, 3 days out we see it, like their relationship, I guess, develop a bit, but I think it's a situation where a lot of people project it onto the show what they want their relationship to be, when in fact their relationship is extremely toxic, and Walt uses Jesse, and Jesse looks up to Walt because you know, Walt is older and wiser, and he you know, he's like helping him deal with all these things that he's not smart enough to deal with on his own. So yeah, it's a really interesting relationship, I feel. And then when we see them back in Better Call Saul, I'm like, you know, this is exactly how I remember it. Or like when we see fucking Walt at that in Saul Gone, that the fact that he's like this fucking asshole, who's just not listening to Jimmy at all, and he's just like, fuck you, what the fuck are you talking about time travel? That's impossible, you bitch. Because I love that, because it's like Vince and Peter Gould are clearly like, no, we remember how Walt was at this point. He wasn't a good person. He was just, you know, because I think a lot of people like expected to have like this interesting heart or whatever. Walt is just like berating Jimmy because he sees him as so much inferior to him, as he says, even like, you're the last lawyer I would have gone to. So it's like a very consistent characterization, even in Breaking Bad, even in Better Call Saul, where he isn't like that much in that show.
Like everyone sort of when it was announced they would come back, everyone was like, "Oh, it's the boys, they're back. They're going to be in here and have like a couple great scenes." And everyone sort of forgets that Walter's kind of a dick. Like,
Yeah.
he's a proper cunt. Like, it's honestly fitting that the last time we're ever going to see him is just him being a petty control freak who's just belittles everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was right after he caused, when he leaves, it's right after he caused Mike to die, and he just let the Nazis have Jesse and asked them to kill him. It's like his state of mind at that point isn't of someone who's like, you know, that fun person that Saul's gonna talk to when they're, you know, together before they're before Robert Foster and takes them to, you know, their new identities or whatever. It's very much like a situation where Jimmy just wants someone to just like talk to like pass the time, and Walt is that kind of dick that he always is, and Jimmy like realizes he's very much alone. Um, which now we're talking about Saul Gone, which I want you to do that afterwards. But anyway, that um, I do really like that scene though in Saul Gone, but sorry, my throat is killing me. But yeah, Jesse as well. I think we should talk a little bit about him, and then we can go into El Camino, and then we can finally talk about the boy that is Better Call Saul. But Jesse, I think he's my favorite character in Breaking Bad. I think most people would cite him as their favorite character just because he's like, despite everything he does, he remains that kind of like innocent. Like he has that innocence to him to a certain point because he never like wanted to hurt people. He never wanted to do any of this. Like when he kills Gale, you can tell that he's like, fucking hell, I never wanted to do this. And he's doing it more out of necessity for what Walt made him do. And then obviously he gets fucking trapped for months in a fucking basement of Nazis who want him to cook meth. So it's kind of like, you know, getting tortured and shit. And obviously we see in El Camino his relationship with Todd. And it's like, after the entire show of seeing him just like struggle because of what Walt did to him, like Walt caused Jane to die. And you know, he also feels like very guilty about being the one who caused Jane to go back to using drugs. But then it's like he's dealing with his own guilt and his like he's very much inside his own mind, and it's not until the end when he realizes that all he's done is because of Walt or for Walt maybe, which is why I really like in Felina when he says, "Say you want this." No, it's not because because Walt wanted Jesse to kill him, and it's like, come on, you want to do this? It's like, no, say you want this, like you want me to kill you. Um, but you're like manipulating me, just making me think I'm the one who wants this. And he's like, do it yourself. It's just a fantastic payoff of Jesse like taking agency over his own life, like finally, after so much of like the opposite in the show being shown, which I do really like.
I think it's like super like it's just sad because like Jesse still cared for Walt too, no matter how much bullshit he put him through. Because like in El Camino, really quick when the little news report is going on about Walter White passing away, you just see he's still like really upset even through all that shit that Walt has put him through.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's very telling that they have that moment. Um, in Felina, after Walt goes Walt goes into the lab, and Jesse grabs the El Camino and drives away. They have that moment where they just look at each other and nod, and it's like you have this understanding of like, I guess, respect for one another despite everything. And you can still tell like, yeah, Jesse still sees Walt as like someone he to look up to. Um, in a sense. It might be just some kind of like Stockholm syndrome after everything they've been through of him like wanting this like father figure, because a lot of it is as well that he wants Walt to be like his dad, because he the way his family has kind of like shunned him, but not his brother, which
Yeah, I think.
sorry on.
Yeah, I think one of the most sort of telling moments of this all shows what Jesse thinks of him is when he gets him that watch for his birthday, and this like an actually meaningful gift, and he's like the one person who's actually gotten Walt like a genuine gift, and it just sort of just shows how highly he thought of him at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, especially after how like shitty that birthday was for Walt. Like nobody showed up for a party or anything, and then it was just awful because of like the stuff that was going on with Skylar. So like the family was really distant from him on the birthday too, and so just seeing that like from Jesse probably just like affected Walt like pretty deeply that day, and just showed like, damn, like this kid actually cares about me. But even then, Walt still just fucking used him as a tool for his own means to his end.
Yeah. Um, yeah, is there anything more we would like to talk about in terms of Breaking Bad before we move on to El Camino?
Who's everyone's favorite character?
Mine's Jesse.
Either Hank or Jesse for me. Definitely one of those two. Probably Jesse, just because El Camino just does a lot for his character too, and it's just so perfect.
I'd probably have to go with Jesse as well. And basic, I guess.
I'm just a fucking normie, so I'm just gonna say Walt.
I was gonna say mine's Jesse too. I didn't think we would all have the same answer.
So
there's nothing wrong with saying Jesse.
Yeah, well, Zod at least is the odd one out. So good on you, Zod, for picking the main character. Yeah,
Special.
Special by choosing the more generic answer. Anyway, yeah. El Camino.
Right? Like what we were just talking about. I think Skylar is the kind of bitch and one of the villains of the show, and I'm like, she is literally like 100% the victim. Seeing the shit that woman has gone through is insane. Like, she's literally forced to launder his money, or else, like, she's gonna be made out to be a bad mom and a bad person and all that shit. And Walter Jr. basically just holds Walt to this ridiculously high standard, no matter what kind of bullshit he puts Skylar through. And it's just awful because I've seen shit like that in real life, like having experienced some of that recently myself, and it makes me really get a lot of respect for Skylar for having to go through all of that. Because I mean, sure, like Jesse was forced to like kill someone and stuff like that. Like that's awful. That's absolutely horrible. I mean, I'd say Skylar like had it like almost just as bad in terms of abuse that she suffered from Walt having to literally like live with him on and off for a couple of years and dealing with him bringing that kind of shit home. Like, especially the scene where she figures out, yeah, Jesse almost burned their fucking home down after being told she and the family were safe for so long. It turns out, oh yeah, there's been a couple hitmen at the house. And then our house, well, she didn't figure out about the twins marking their house for like death, but that happened. And then Jesse burning down the house. It's like the amount of times her and Walter Jr. could have possibly died, and Todd breaking into her house too. It's ridiculous the amount of shit that woman was put through, and yet she continued to stay with him just because she wanted Walter Jr. to be happy.
I agree 100%, but you should have said that before I played the El Camino intro, because now that's the beginning of the El Camino part. So yeah, so yeah, after after the El Cum shows up, that's the first thing everyone's gonna hear. It's just you talking about Skylar, but it's fine.
You
just had to
right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can leave.
It's fine. But you know what, Ethan, even though you already ruined the El Camino part, I do know that you love El Camino quite a lot. So do you want to talk a little bit about why you love it so much?
Yeah, so recently, like after the rewatch this morning, I'd have to say it's in one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time now. It is like it does seem unnecessary at first. Like I remember seeing the trailer back for it when it first came out, and I was like, this has probably got to be one of the most unnecessary movies ever made. And then I watched it and it was just so perfect. I was like, nope, this needed to happen. Like I needed this shit. It's such a beautiful send-off to such a great character. Because I mean, we already knew he escaped, so we kind of figured things were gonna be like better off for him already. But seeing him like get up to Alaska. I was actually born there, so go Jesse, good choice. But seeing him go up there and just get to move on from everything while just kind of holding on to like some good memories, like with Jane and like his talk with Mike at the beginning when the movie opens and stuff like that. It really hits home and it makes me cry because just seeing the amount of bullshit he went through and then now he's gonna get to be this happy guy just living his life. It really touches your heart. Like it really does a lot. And it also just shows how much change he went through because this dude who was not willing to kill and was crying when he had a gun pointed at Gale is now just he's all for getting his freedom and he's willing to fucking kill someone for it, as we see towards the end of the movie when he kills oh fuck, what's his name? I forget the guy because I just watched the movie.
Neil.
Yeah, Neil. Like when he kills him, it's like, dude, he's perfectly willing to fight for his freedom, and that really shows like how much all the shit he's gone through in Breaking Bad has changed him as a person.
No, I agree. I think a lot of I think the entire point of the film is to show how much Jesse has suffered on his way to freedom. But I also really like because it's like had he left at the end of Breaking Bad without us knowing the context of like him having money and shit like that, he wouldn't like Todd having his money, he would have gotten that money. We would have like he wouldn't have any way to escape, and obviously the police would hunt him down because it was part of Walt's drug empire. And so it's the kind of thing where like adding that extra context and making us know for sure that he's okay, and that after like so all the shit he went through and even more shit that he went through in this very film, he's able to achieve the one thing he's wanted for a while, the thing that like season. Well, he tried to get like since season 2, I think, when he started to be with Jane, and he got all that money. It is kind of like, you know, we don't need Walt anymore. If you have this amount of money, we could just like live anywhere and do whatever we want. And then Walt ends up killing Jane. I say he kills Jane because he puts her on her back, and that's what causes her to choke on her vomit. So he did end up killing her. It wasn't just like that he watched and didn't do anything. At least that's how I view it. But the this like and having like after all that, Walt having ruined his life so many times and ruining his search for freedom, he's finally able to achieve it. And it actually did turn out that it was in a big part because Walt freed him from the compound, but it's also because of his own like expertise, I guess. Like because Jesse, the way he's able to formulate a plan to get more of the money at the end, I think is really smart, and it showcases how Walt may have been really smart in terms of chemistry and planning, but Jesse's very street smart. He understands how to I guess how to deal with a situation like that, but also I feel like the idea of having a second gun for the standoff is just brilliant from Jesse, because I
He ain't leaving shit up to chance anymore.
yeah, and it's the kind of thing where I feel like he got that from Walt. I feel like that's a thing, like a very Walt thing to do, you know, and I feel like it's interesting. It's like he's definitely learned and grown as a person, like his intelligence and whatnot. Yeah. I don't know. I really do like it, and I feel like the way that the show shows like his trauma with Todd. I think especially in that scene where he has the gun but he doesn't shoot Todd. It's just so heartbreaking. Every time I see that scene, I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like, it just makes you feel so bad for him, because you can see he starts crying when he says pepperoni, and I'm like, because you know Todd asks him what his favorite pizza is. And I'm like, Jesus, man, you were like, you should be such a like upbeat guy, and now look at you, you're just like a beaten puppy, which is also an interesting metaphor to use, because Todd does treat him like a dog throughout that entire bit where they go to get the body at his apartment and whatnot. Because we have you know, Todd grooming his hair. And then say, I'm gonna do a better job of keeping you clean from now on, huh? And then he you know, offers him treats to make him drop the gun, and it's all like he's treating Jesse like a dog, and it is so like it breaks my heart to see that, because Jesse deserves so much better than that, and he's just being used by this cunt because of Walt's bad decisions. So yeah.
No, exactly. And like with the final line with Jane, where she's talking about like, oh no, I think it's better to make our own choices instead
Yeah.
of going where like the universe takes us. I think the scene where he has the second gun and he shoots Neil is also a good example of that, because usually he would have just like left that up to chance and be like, I can probably do this on the chance that I can like shoot faster, but like with not going with the universe anymore and making his own choices, that second gun is like a good example of that because he's like,
Yeah.
I'm not leaving this up to the universe. This is on me that I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here. I'm going to Alaska, and I'm finally getting the peace that I was talking about with Jane in the second season, but not with Jane, obviously, because you know she died.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with that. It is, I guess is that what we're talking about each other. Like, it is very much just like he finally gets what he's been searching for so long, and that's just really, really cathartic. To see, after so much shit he's been put through, and I think that his scenes with Ed, his scene with Ed is one of my favorites, where he's like, oh, just 1800 short, and he doesn't want to budge, but he does let him keep the money. And I feel like Ed is like, he's not trying to take advantage of Jesse. He's just being a very simply like a pragmatic. Like, I can't just like go easy on him because being in this job, if you go easy on someone, that's gonna fuck up like my entire job security, I guess, like life security. But at the end, him reading the letter that Jesse was gonna send to Brock, and just be like, yeah, I'm gonna mail it to you. Like, you can tell that he understands everything Jesse's been through, and he feels sorry for Jesse. It's just a case of he couldn't budge in certain aspects, like not having him pay for the other one, or not having enough money, just because that's how his job works. But he definitely like empathizes with Jesse, and I quite like that. Like, I think Ed is a really interesting character. Like, I feel like obviously Robert Foster died, so don't think they'd ever do that. But like a show that is like an anthology show, basically, like where Ed dealing with different clients of this aspect, or trying to start a brand new life or shit like that, could be so interesting to see his perspective on these things, because he does seem to be like very emotionless and pragmatic, but he has a lot of as well, I guess, acting on he does show like empathy in a lot of it. So I think it would be really interesting to have a show that like explores his character further. Not that they will do it, but I do think it could be cool. And
Oh, I think I
so
agree.
sorry, what'd you say, Ethan?
Oh, I was just saying, I think I agree.
Yeah. But I also really love Todd in this film. I think, because obviously we've seen a bit of Todd in season 5, and how like much of a sociopath he is, I guess. But he gets to like a whole new level in this film of like not understanding Jesse's pain, or maybe not that he doesn't understand it, but that he doesn't care and he just manipulates him, which is why I think like Yuzi, like the way he treats him like a puppy is like he doesn't really think Jesse's feelings are like important, or like are real in any sense that like affects him. It's more so that he or because he even says like when he's talking about having killed his cleaning lady, and he's like, oh, don't make me feel worse than I already do. But then he starts fucking making fucking soup, and he's just like, oh, you want some soup? And Jesse's fucking traumatized looking at the body. Or when they're in the car and Jesse's in the back with the body, and Jesse's just like trying to grab something to stay away from the fucking body, because he was being flung close to it. And Todd is just singing in the front, like all happy. You can tell that he's like, he doesn't he doesn't take anything seriously. Like, he doesn't take these feelings seriously. So when he says like, oh, don't make me feel worse than I already do, about the cleaning lady, I don't think he actually feels bad. I think he knows he's supposed to feel bad because she was a good person, because he's supposed to have a code, but he doesn't really care, because, well, why would he? He doesn't understand emotions. He's very much a psychopath in that sense, which I do find
Oh
really
no,
interesting.
no, exactly. I think those are really good parts of the movie. I think my favorite part of the movie, though, honestly, is the whole all the scenes with Skinny Pete and Badger,
Oh
because
yeah,
the entire time we saw them in Breaking Bad, they were like more like just always kind of, well, not
comic
always, but
relief.
like mostly it was just like comic relief, or yo, Jesse, like help us sell more meth or get us some meth or some dope, you know. But in this one, like they really show like how like actually like compassionate and caring those two are
Yeah,
for Jesse, helping him get cleaned up, hiding him, and just making sure he's gonna do all right, making sure like he can stay hidden, get some fresh clothes and all that stuff. And it's really nice seeing a side of those two characters that we never really got to see in Breaking Bad, and it makes me like those two so much more. Not to mention it's just really nice seeing those two do good for each other and like have their own place after like Walt paid him and stuff like that.
yeah. Now Skinny Pete has the El Camino as well that he has always wanted. So very based.
All right. Always what an El Camino.
I love, yeah. I think one of my favorite lines in the film, and maybe my favorite line, but it's when Skinny Pete says, "You're my hero" and shit. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah, that's so touching.
yeah, and it's interesting because obviously there's a, I think everyone knows by this point because it was in the trailer, but there's the deleted scene of Skinny Pete being interrogated, where he doesn't give up Jesse, and I think a lot of people have said that that scene should have been in the film. I'm like, it's redundant. We know that he wouldn't have given up Jesse. Um,
Oh, exactly.
yeah, and it's kind of like we already see the impact that Jesse has had on Skinny Pete. And I really like having that be his last line, like "You're my hero" and shit. And then we don't see him again because the entire point is to follow Jesse and his mind on his road to freedom. And so having Skinny Pete just leave saying that is like, caring about Jesse after they have been friends for so long, and after Jesse went through so much and still came out like alive, is something that I think Skinny Pete just like I don't he fuck, I forgot the word, but he fucking similar to idolize, I forgot the word. He fuck.
Inspiration.
Yes, yeah, he finds it inspiring. Exactly, yeah, that works. Not the exact word I was looking for, but it works. Yeah, yeah, he finds it inspiring how Jesse went through so much and he still came out like alive and well, and he's still trying to keep fighting. Like he's not giving up, and I think that's just so good.
Yeah, and he even gets to see that because I mean he's already seen he's been through a lot, but then like he really gets an experience of that firsthand when Jesse wakes up and like sees the cage at first, and then he realizes he's not in the cage, and so he like freaks out, and then those two get a gun pointed at him, like they're like, oh shit, yeah, no, he's a little more fucked up than we thought, but like they're still there for him, like even after he just pointed a gun at him, like a lot of people would probably freak out and like call the cops, but they're just like, hey dude, like it's gonna be okay, don't worry, get
Yeah.
yourself cleaned up.
Get some new clothes here. I do really like as well how their dialogue is like they talk how like as in the words they say are the words they would normally use, but the way they say it is just like they're trying to soften, I guess, the blow and not like say anything that might set Jesse off because they've seen how Jesse can be set off.
It's that hip hop talk, but nice and calm.
Yeah, and so I find it just so funny when Badger says church in the most like unenthusiastic tones, like church, because it's just like they feel so bad for Jesse, but they also don't want to make it seem like things have changed. They want to show Jesse, no, we're here to support you, and we're the same people you thought we were. Because if he finds it to be something different, he might obviously be scared because of all his trauma. So yeah, I don't know. I think El Camino is just like a perfect example of how to make like. I guess it could be considered a legacy sequel in a way, or just like to end the character's story in that sense, because in theory, it isn't necessary to show anything after he drives away from the compound, but showing it adds a layer to his character and adds a like a sense of finality where you understand how Jesse made it out alive after that and how he's free, rather than just implying it. Like I think it's of all the characters after of all the characters after Breaking Bad, the one to show their fate is Jesse. I think he's the one who needed it the most, despite there being quite a few characters who obviously could have gotten the same treatment. Jesse is the one who's like, his road to freedom is still not over, and seeing him get there is very satisfying.
I wouldn't even say his freedom is technically over when he gets to Alaska, because I mean, sure, like he's satisfied in being gone, but that PTSD is still going to live with him for a while. So we at least know he's going to be working towards getting free from all that shit in his mind still. This is just like a big step for him that we get to see in his arc for it. He's still going to be going through a lot, like in the universe, obviously, after this.
Yeah, but it's one thing that I like is that when he gets there, he says, "You know, it's quiet," and Ed says, "You know, like, thought you could use some of that." It's like, yeah, after so many things that we've seen that like set off his PTSD, him being somewhere very quiet is something that fits a lot with like where he should be to work on getting his mind better. And obviously having that Jane scene and having the Kristen Ritter cameo was brilliant because Jane had such a big impact on his life, despite not being in the show for that long. But she had such a big impact on like the way he views things and how much he blamed himself, and how that caused a lot of shit. Just like her death put so much on his mind, showing her with him as a sign of like him accepting the things that have happened and that he's done, and that he's working on moving on from it is a very nice thing to see. Right after obviously knowing that he wrote a letter to Brock, because Brock, that's like the film needed to address how he would deal with the fact that he got Brock's mom killed, and it's something that it does so really well. It's just thinking, he cared about that kid a lot, and he heard him, and he's gonna say some words to him. It doesn't matter what he say. What it matters is that he's still thinking about Brock, and before he moves on to this new chapter in his life, he is going to I guess try to help Brock deal with the death of his mom.
Oh yeah, and along with like the final scene, the score that accompanies it is so fucking beautiful. It just that's another reason it makes me cry like so much. Is just hearing that score. It automatically makes me so teary-eyed, and then along with the rest of it, I bawl like a little bitch, almost as much as when Logan dies in Logan.
Logan, yeah. No, the soundtrack in all three properties is amazing, and I hadn't thought about the El Camino soundtrack like at all in ages, because I hadn't seen it in a while. And then when I was making these intros, when I was making the ECUM, I was like, well, I guess I gotta download I guess I gotta use the El Camino theme, not that it has like an intro, which is why I just faded in a PNG. And it's the track that plays in the beginning of the film when we see him seeing the cops. Yeah, he's like boom, 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 and but I was like, oh shit, the soundtrack actually is really good. And I was listening to a few tracks on the film, like, man, Dave Porter did really well with this film. I didn't remember like the soundtrack being this good, because it's something as well that Breaking Bad didn't use the soundtrack a lot. A lot of the moments are just very quiet, and Better Call Saul is also that, and El Camino also has very quiet moments, but the soundtrack does accompany a lot of the film really well. And one thing that both shows and the film like to do is when they're having like these montages of characters like doing something that takes a while, they put these tracks in them, and they're all really fantastic every time. Like when Jesse was searching the apartment for Todd's money.
Oh yeah, like the track they use for that feels kind of montagey, like obviously because it is a montage, but it also feels like pretty intense because it's like, oh shit, like he doesn't get this money, he's fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, that entire scene is just a really great work of tension, I guess, because it's not only that he needs to get the money. It's then the fucking two cops show up, and it's like, oh shit, they're cops. And they're like, oh shit, they're not cops. That's even worse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I
Those
just
little
I really do like the way that entire scene builds up, and yeah, it's just this film uses some very simple like Chekhov's guns for a few things, and I do really like. For example, like the first place he looked for the money was the fridge, and then he looks at the entire apartment and he doesn't find it, and then he bumps his head in the fridge and he hears, wait, this is hollow. No, that's not hollow. He hears one of the money stacks falling. It's like, oh shit, it's in here. But by then it's like, oh, these guys are coming in, these cops, and it's just
phenomenal.
yeah, it's just the classic way Breaking Bad did of like to make like even when there are like unlikely things happening, they always have like a bad consequence to them. Like it's not just like a contrivance happening. Uh, the like fallout from it is sometimes even more negative than if the coincidence hadn't happened at all, which I find really interesting as a way to have coincidences in your story.
Yeah, that's something the Breaking Bad universe does really well. Another thing I think the universe does really well is they take like some like typical just like things that are kind of like funny moments, like when Walter gets like him and Junior their cars, they like kind of do that funny little like sports car flash kind of cinematography thing, but
Uh,
they still make it like kind of badass. And then with like we were just talking about the montage where Jesse's looking for the money, it's like usually that would be like a pretty funny moment, but like instead of like making it badass like they did with the sports cars, they make it like a super tense moment somehow with
yeah,
like that overhead shot of the entire apartment and like the score and everything, and even the lighting in that montage shot. It's like, oh shit, like I don't feel like laughing at this, even though like it's usually a pretty funny moment when things do that. It's actually like really intense.
yeah. And you mentioned the montage. I think one of my favorite montages in every uh in all these properties is in Better Call Saul, when Mike is looking is like tearing apart his car to look for the tracker. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, the soundtrack in that is fantastic because there are so many of these like montages where Mike is just doing something and he's not saying anything, and it's like fucking 5 to 10 minutes of characters not saying anything. It's just the soundtrack accompanying them. It's just I don't know. I think it's a really interesting way to show like the process of doing this because kind of showing like the heightened realism of how a lot of these things, yeah, they would take time, and we're gonna show that they take time, but we're also gonna make them super entertaining to watch, I guess. Uh, I don't know, it's interesting.
No, I agree. And like kind of going back to like Jesse's kind of like PTSD throughout that whole movie. I think probably like it's not like maybe it's not the worst moment of like torture per se in the film, but like the scene where they're like forcing him to run with the chains on,
Oh yeah.
I think that one honestly gets me the most, just because like sure it's not like him like being forced to like get power sprayed or being forced to like carry a body or anything, but like it's just that scene where they're just laughing at him. It just really makes me like my heartbreak for Jesse the most, because you're just watching these people just treat this dude like a fucking dog and they're just laughing about it
Uh-huh.
just because they can. And it's just like, wow, like how can one be so inhumane? I mean, we've already seen some pretty inhumane shit because of Breaking Bad, but that one in particular where they're just laughing at it, it's just it's really just gut wrenching to me.
Yeah, I think the moment that gets me the most is when he goes in the shower and we have that match cut to him being sprayed by water. And then we cut to back to him in the shower again and he's fucking freaking out.
Yeah, he's like turning it off, like, nope, I can't do this. I can't
Yeah.
even fucking shower right now.
Yeah, and I also love that he brings a gun into the shower with him. That's such a like holy crap. This dude is fucked up. Uh yeah. That's your dog. I'll hate them more. I mean that's fair. Uh yeah,
So Sky and I have been talking about it quite a bit.
yeah.
Do Tim, Todd, or Grant have anything to say on El Camino?
I'll let Zod go first. I'll let him talk some.
Uh, well, I, I'm sorry, I didn't rewatch it before this. I failed. But
Oh,
I told you. Ah,
I know.
And guess who rewatched it? Guess who?
you- when you're worse than 10, you know something's wrong. But anyway,
Yeah.
if you don't have much to say, it's fine. The big portion is going to be about Better Call Saul anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have most to say about. So yeah.
Yeah, all right. Tin, do you have anything to say? Because you did rewatch it, as I told you to. So well done on listening to me.
Well, the thing that always stands out to me with it is the direction, because I first watched it like the day after I finished Breaking Bad, like
Me too.
literally the very next day. So like I didn't seeing like Vince Gilligan's style go from sort of early 2010s style directing to like proper midway through Better Call Saul style directing was. No, it just felt like really natural for me, like a very good sort of. I guess a good experience for me because I hadn't started Better Call Saul by that point, but it it, it did literally feel like a Breaking Bad film. Like it not only did the story feel like a good continuation, but like the direction still felt like a good continuation. Like because like one thing that really stood out for me in terms of the direction was like because I was messaging along to Zorja as I was watching it and. He mentioned how like for this, Vince Gilligan I think like used like actual like was it like lenses that we use on old Western films for it, like he wanted to do for Breaking Bad but couldn't do the budget.
Something like that. Yeah, he took a lot of inspiration from really old. I think it was like a very specific director. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, he used a very similar camera setup
I
because he
didn't
wanted
know
it
that, but
to have
that's
that
super
vibe.
cool.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, and like
the entire show of Breaking Bad had a lot of Western influences. So having the standoff and doing that in terms of like
that's the moment that really hit it for us. Where like this feels like a Western
yeah.
like even for them calling out saying like the Old West was just like a
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's like this a character's search for freedom like that, like an outlaw searching for his freedom by the end with the look of like a fucking standoff. It's just like such a Western story. I didn't really like that it was that Vince acknowledged it in the film, I guess.
yeah. It very much feels like a modern sort of Western like a Westman like a tired old sort of criminal looking for a way out. That's very sort of
Oh yeah,
classic
especially with the
spec-
shootout at
classic
the
Western.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, and I'll say this. I remember like I was told that like this film was a bit odd because of the lack of de-aging and like, especially watching right after I finished Breaking Bad, like it was a bit more noticeable. But I
Oh
didn't
yes,
mind it,
Jesse
like,
Plemons has changed quite a bit.
yeah.
Walter White has a fat ass head.
Honestly, Jesse wasn't as noticeable as having happened. It wasn't as noticeable for me.
Oh yeah, Aaron Paul still looks pretty good, and I think it works well because of how much he's supposed to be like traumatized. Because we know that like stress and shit like ages someone just like visually. So he looks like he's been through a lot. Even though he's supposed to be like what 25.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, like
I'll be
even
honest, I
like
don't
the.
really... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, so like, de-aging doesn't really like affect a role for me too much. Like, I mean, Better Call Saul, like you can especially tell with someone like Giancarlo Esposito in the final season, like they did not really de-age him that much at all. But like, I think when someone can just still get into the role of their character and just play them well, I really don't care. Unless it was something like Aaron Paul had like gray fucking hair, where he's like an old man now. I think I can obviously look past it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
because like again, like I watched this like right after I finished Breaking Bad, so I noticed like even in the first scene when like Mike suddenly aged like 6 fucking years and like looks a lot older. Like that was I would say it was jarring, but it wasn't like it didn't take us out of it, but like it still worked. But like I guess the most jarring one would have to probably be Todd due to all that.
Yeah, he got
But-
quite older and quite Fat.
He got quite older, then quite younger in the span of a few months. But
But it's the kind of thing where
no,
like Jesse Plemons is such a good actor that I could not care less about like him, him looking like not looking like he did in Breaking Bad.
he's still the same snarly psychopathic little rat. That
Yeah.
the him looking a bit fatter doesn't really change much. Like, yeah,
Hey, man.
yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah,
The whole film was just really good.
you mentioned the visual. I really love the visual style with like the color palette being like this very interesting pastel color, which is it kind of looks like the episode Bagman from Better Call Saul, like the way it's shot and everything, because in the desert, but it's like that throughout the entire film, but it's I guess more accentuated than in Bagman, because Better Call Saul always says that like it doesn't stray too far from like realistic looking. This film it definitely did, where it had this I guess heightened colors, but it makes like when they're in the desert, like the landscape is fucking gorgeous. And I always think that when I'm watching, like, Jesus Christ, that's beautiful. When Todd takes him out to the desert to bury the to bury the cleaning lady, and it's just it has a very unique visual style, despite also, like you said, feeling like a natural continuation of the visual style of Breaking Bad. And if because I also watched, like you, I watched it after I finished Breaking Bad, so I watched it before I started Better Call Saul. It felt like a it felt kind of like, oh shit, okay, like I can see how you got from here, but it was I guess a bit weird to see when you once you see Better Call Saul, you're like, oh, okay, this visual style has been in Better Call Saul recently, because it was around when season 4 is coming out, right, when the film came out. So yeah, it does feel like very much trying to put itself in the same vein as Better Call Saul, while also being like, this is a continuation of Breaking Bad. It's an interesting visual style. I like it.
It's like taking the best of both worlds and running with it.
Yeah. And yeah. Do you have anything else to talk about in terms of El Camino? And if you do want to say something, Ethan, if you could please say before I play the Better Call Saul intro.
And if he doesn't, just mute him. Just mute him. just lower his audio.
I don't know. I don't think I have anything else to say. I've gushed about it quite a bit.
Yeah, obviously it's fine if you want to like
brilliant.
come back into mentioning the Breaking Bad and El Camino as we talk about Better Call Saul. It's more so just you have these like segments, I guess, for each one of them. But yeah,
Right. I don't know if Grant is maybe just gone for a second. But I mean, if he's here at all and can hear us, does he have anything to say about El Camino? I think he's gone.
yeah, I think he's yeah. Well, Grant's muted. I hope he comes back soon for Better Call Saul, because I do know how much he likes it. Like, look at his fucking profile picture. He loves Better Call
That
Saul.
is Goodman Saul right there, I think.
It's Goodman
It's
Saul.
Howard Goodman.
Yeah, but it's Howard Goodman is a good one. I was thinking of Saul Hamlin, but Howard.
Oh, he's unmuted.
Oh, hey, see, you're talking about your profile picture. Hey, Grant.
Hey.
Do you have anything
Sorry,
you want to
I,
say about El Camino before we move on to Better Call Saul?
Not really anything that you haven't already said. I don't understand why people were disappointed in it. I think
Okay.
it pretty
I was
much
actually talking
concludes.
to Sky about that the other day. I watched Moist Critical's video on it before I watched it again, and it's so bad. It's ass.
Yeah,
It's
I think a lot of
interesting
people
'cause he says
were just real quick, because I remember Chris Stuckman. He said that like it feels like you're eating food after you were already full, like being served more food after you were already full at points. I'm like, what? I think it's like I think it's just a weird like way to put it, because it's telling such a like don't like. I think it's just like everyone thinks, oh, it's not necessary to tell the story, but it kind of feels like if you're saying that, you're not really understanding what the story is telling you about it. It's the way I view it. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Graham.
No, it's fine. I just, yeah, I don't know why people were disappointed in it, and I think that it pretty much concludes Jesse's story perfectly, and you know, he's like my favorite character in Breaking Bad, so him getting a whole movie to himself was pretty neat. And I also thought it was cool how in like the finale he used skills that he learned from the people he looked up to, that being both Walt and Mike.
Yeah.
Because he in the shootout he I think that's a skill that he mainly picked up from Mike, and then he blew up like the building afterwards, which is
Yeah, a very wild thing to
like,
do. Yeah.
yeah, very very Walter White.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we're ready to move on to Better Call Saul. I'm gonna deafen myself for a second. So if you start talking again, Ethan, I swear to God. Anyway.
You love me.
Hey, I undeafened myself, so I hope you didn't say anything, Ethan. This time.
No.
Yeah,
No.
good. Yeah. So anyway, Better Call Saul. Grant, I think I should ask you first. What do you want to talk about in terms of Better Call Saul? I know you quite love the show. We've talked about it a lot over the past few months.
Yeah.
We rewatched season 4 together. How do you feel about the show now that it's ended? Yeah.
Well, Better Call Saul is my favorite show of all time. And I feel like it's gonna take a lot to change that. Like it would, if a new show came along like in the future, it would have to do a lot to make me change my opinion on that. But I think this most recent season is not only my favorite season of the show, but my favorite season that they've ever made in all of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I think it pretty much is like I haven't seen very many people who were let down by it, thankfully, but I feel like it concludes Jimmy's story perfectly in a way where it's like each one of the three main protagonists of this whole story, being like Walt, Jesse, and Saul, they now have three different perfect endings that are so just like drastically different from one another. And it feels like, you know, for each one of the characters, the only options in the end for them were to either die, escape, or end up in jail. Just like inevitably from the start of Breaking Bad, you kind of get the sense that like those are the kind of inevitable conclusions that they will end up at. And obviously each one of them gets different outcomes, but I think each one of them fits the character perfectly, because Saul, like his whole arc ever since the beginning of this show was to essentially change who he was for the better. In order, at first it was to get like the approval of his brother, and then it was just mainly the only thing that was keeping him afloat after that was Kim. And then, you know, seeing this season when he finally just loses everything and you actually see Saul Goodman for the first time after 6 seasons of content, it's just not only heartbreaking, but it just like completely recontextualizes everything pretty much in Breaking Bad, just the way you look at him as a character.
Oh yeah, it's interesting because it's
that was
I
so
think
brilliant.
everyone has said that, but it's like he is a pretty much one note comedy character in Breaking Bad, and he fits function perfectly in that show. It's not about him, so it's fine, whatever. In Better Call Saul, once you watch that, if you rewatch Breaking Bad, it's just like instead of laughing at the Jamie scenes, you're gonna be like heartbroken. You're like, holy crap! Look at like what Jimmy has become after Kimmy left him. After Howard died, it's like, man, this is depressing. But I also love because people are saying that. But then after the finale, I'm like, instead of like being that depressed, at least you know now that at the end point, you know where he is, and you know that he does like learn to better himself to be Jimmy McGill instead of being Saul Goodman or Gene Takovic or whatever. Like he becomes Jimmy McGill once again after so long at the end. So even though you're still gonna like probably not laugh as much during the Saul Goodman scenes. I think it goes to a point where it's like it's not just that it's not that it's just heartbreaking anymore. It's that this is part of his path to becoming Jimmy again, which does take a long time for him to do so, but he eventually does get there.
Well, not only is Saul Goodman finally gone, he finally did what his brother wanted him to do, and he finally proved his brother wrong about him, that he was capable of change. And he finally, especially ever since like season 4, he finally stopped burying his trauma and his emotions, and finally just let everything out, and he just took ownership of everything that he did and all the guilt that he's felt throughout this entire series, especially in seasons 4 and 5.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love the moment where Oakley is like, "Why did you confess? Why did you say that last part? That wasn't like a confession. That wasn't a crime or whatever." It was like, yes, he was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because it's finally seeing Jimmy admit about like the way he mistreated his brother, how he's trying to sabotage his brother, and actually like feel remorse over it. It's just so satisfying. I love it.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's like kind of like my thought process because like when I first started watching Breaking Bad, it was like season 3. I should not have been watching it because I was only like 9 at the time, but
Jesus.
like whatever, mom and dad. But I watched it and then like kind of like figured out Better Call Saul was a thing like 2 years after it premiered, and I had like watched Breaking Bad again at that point, and that's like when I really got into film and TV, and I was like, why the fuck would I want a show about this lawyer? But then like towards the end, you're just really like, oh no, not my fucking Jimmy, because like you've just grown so attached to him because they do such a good job. And I think it really speaks volumes when a prequel show can come out and make something like Breaking Bad that much better after watching it, because I mean you really do feel that with some of these recontextualizations is it really does make Breaking Bad a much better show, and it's just like wow.
I actually think Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad.
Me too.
I think a lot of people wouldn't like to say that because Breaking Bad is, viewed as that fantastic, like it's the bar for the perfect show for a lot of people. I think the way Better Call Saul explores its characters is it does it better, not because Breaking Bad does it poorly, but because Better Call Saul is just that good that it goes so deep into every single character, every single one of the main characters, and makes them so layered that you understand them without having them ever like explicitly state how they're feeling. Which is why I remember talking to you, Grant, about Kim and how you know about the the something stupid montage, which is just a classic moment that everyone mentions, and how like the point is that they're growing apart with all these schemes, and then once they do find another scheme to pull, that's when they get closer together, which is with the Hugh shit. And
scheme with me any day if she wants.
Same.
I'm sorry.
No, but my point being here is that like we understood that that Kim, she was looking for that thrill. It's like a drug addiction where she always wants that fix, and that's why at the end of season 5, she suggests that they do that scheme to try to, get the money from what's it called?
Sandpiper.
Sandpiper. Thank you. The Sandpiper money and sabotaging Howard to do so. Like she wants to do it because she wants to have fun. She doesn't care about the money itself. So much so that there's that point where she quits her fucking job to work pro bono because she wants to do what she wants. She doesn't care about money. Like money's never like at the front of her mind. The way she convinces Jimmy to talk about money, which I found it really interesting, is because I saw a clip from that scene on Twitter yesterday. That was like, she says, "Oh, how much money do you get from Sandpiper?" And then Jimmy's like, "We get X amount of money," and I think it's like 20% that he says of the settling. And I was like, oh, like she wants to lure Jimmy by mentioning money because that's how she'll get Jimmy to do this. Did you drop your microphone in like a tub full of ice?
No, sorry.
That's fine. It distracted me. But my point being that she wants to do it because she wants to have fun, and she wants to convince Jimmy by mentioning the money, because like, oh, we're gonna win a lot of money, and it's fine. And when we get to season 6, and she says, that she did it because she was having too much fun. That's why she didn't mention the fucking that Lala was still alive. I feel it's like we finally get an admittance of something that we knew for so long. And I talked to Grant about this, and we mentioned it a few times. Like, she's doing this because she likes it. She wants the thrill of it. And then when she gets to admit it, it's like it's the same thing as when Walt and Felina says, "I did it for me." Because you're getting an admittance of something you already knew, but that the character was never willing to admit. Because Kim is always like trying to justify herself and being like, no, it's fine. Like as they say in the scene where Howard dies, like Howard even says, like, well, you knew I'd be okay, like that I bounce back from this, and I will. But like it doesn't excuse this, and you think you're like these excuses work, that they're fine for what you're doing. It's the same as Walt always being like, oh, I'm doing this for my family. And so you finally get him to admit that he's doing it for himself. Is the same kind of thing where you get a satisfying moment of a character finally being truthful to themselves, as opposed to being, trying to justify their bad behavior. And obviously, I think Kim makes a really interesting decision to leave Jimmy because they're bad for each other, but they still love each other. It's like the perfect way of like, oh yeah, this is why she wasn't Breaking Bad. It's like it's not that they stop loving each other. It's that they're both bad for each other. So Kim didn't want to be with him. Like it makes perfect sense. And she also stops being a lawyer because of the guilt she feels, and then she moves to fucking, what was it, Florida, and lives that fucking boring ass life. Yeah, it's like she's punishing herself for having done that to Howard. She also didn't even take the Sandpiper money. So I don't know. I this turned into talking about Kim. My entire point was to be like, oh yeah, we understood her motivation for why she was with Jimmy and what she was thinking way before she admitted to herself. That was my original point. But I just love Kim so much, I ended up talking about her for a while. Which, by the way, I would say, and I think y'all would agree, she's the best character of the show.
She's my favorite.
Yeah, she's the best, but my favorite is Nacho. I love that man.
Nacho is fantastic.
Nacho is amazing.
Yeah.
His scene where he goes out, I think it was episode 3 of season 6, right? Perfect. It was so good. It gives a really good impact when I hear him say, so when you're in your little wheelchair sucking on your jello, you think of me.
I love the way Michael Mando delivers that line you can feel the rage, but like the catharsis he's feeling at that moment of like actually being able to spill his guts and save his dad. Like to like spill the truth and save his dad. But also like show how much he hates Hector and every other like person from the Salamanca family. You know how they ruined his life. It is so satisfying.
The best part of that scene, I think, is when he calls the Salamancas psycho sacks of shit. Because seeing the twins' reaction, where they're like a little shocked at what he said, I think was super cool. Because in the one scene where he's injured and he still like fights with them, you can tell like, oh shit, like he did that. We kind of respect this guy now, and so.
Uh-huh.
Them hearing him say that and seeing the reaction, I think was great because they're just like, bruh, really? Are you fucking kidding me? Like we actually like gave this guy respect and now he's just spitting it in our face, calling us psychopaths.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the entire scene
Yeah.
is just masterful,
The
and
score in that scene also just helps it a lot. It's
yeah.
probably like one of my favorite moments of music in the entire show. And I think that's something like the show does like super well is build tension. Even though we know a lot of these characters are going to live, it's still like I think a really good example of it is I think it's episode 9 when Gus is meeting with Don Eladio and the Salamancas because Hector is accusing him of, you know, being the one to put the hit on Lalo.
Yeah.
It's obviously, you know, Gus is going to live, but that scene is still really tense for Gus. And I was like, you know, I know he's not going to die, but like, what the fuck's going to happen to him? Like, is he going to get tortured or beat or something like that? Like, what's going to happen? I was still feeling nervous for Gus, even though I knew he was going to survive to the next show.
Yeah.
Or not next show, but Breaking Bad.
The previous show.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
think that
That's sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, like, I just think that whole thing is like just the way his storyline is constructed is really well done especially because I did not expect him to die in episode 3. Because I think one thing that most people were thinking was that in episode 1, when Lalo leaves and drives away from the border, everyone was thinking, oh shit, his proof is Nacho, and it's gonna be like, holy shit, a show off between Nacho and Lalo. But then Nacho just offs himself and Lalo never appears, and so it's just like, well, where the fuck did what? It just completely throws you for a loop. It's like I just didn't think they would do something.
You know, I think another really good like kind of go back to the suspension and stuff like that, because I mean it's not as suspenseful, I don't think, but it's a great like thing with character work with a character story, because when Lalo brings Gus down to what's going to be the meth lab in Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
and just makes him talk, like it's another thing of like someone getting their emotions out, because Nacho got it out when he was about to die, and Gus was doing the same thing, and just hearing him say all that stuff like, oh, you guys have no honor, you're more like a pack of jackals.
Yeah.
It's super satisfying to hear that, because you know it's true, and him saying that to Lalo, especially after seeing some of the things Lalo has done throughout the show, especially like a couple episodes before just killing Howard, you're like, yeah, no, this dude's about to fucking get it, and it's so perfectly done.
Yeah. And you meant after killing Howard, but yes.
Yeah. Shut up. Don't correct me. If you knew what I meant, there's no need to correct, okay?
Yeah. But it's I do, because you mentioned about the tension, but it's interesting because it has these characters like Nacho and Howard to build tension from Howard, I guess, in a different sense, because the tension is only in that episode. Like you I guess nobody ever thought he would die before we got to that point where he's like, because like he had no reason to die. He wasn't involved in any of this. But having him die there, you're actually understanding the threat that Lalo is and how much he's affecting our main characters, even if we know that they're gonna be okay. Well, we didn't know Kim was gonna be okay, but anyway, the and so we have that, and we have Nacho, who we know isn't in Breaking Bad, and he obviously had the he was mentioned in dialogue, which is the one you have like those two lines of dialogue that built this entire show, which is Jimmy in Breaking Bad saying, "Oh, it was me. It was did Lalo send you? It wasn't me. It was all Ignacio." Um, and that's where the show comes from. And once you're like, "Oh, this is Ignacio," this is Nacho, and his involvement in all of the story. And I love how much he actually did affect the world of Breaking Bad retroactively once we learned what he has done. So once we learned that he put Hector in the fucking wheelchair, and he was a big part of how Gus was able to take so much control over the drug business, and it's because he was working for Gus for a large part of the show because of blackmail from Gus, because Gus knew that Nacho was the one that poisoned. Well, he didn't poison, I guess, but who fucked over Hector. And so, Grant died. Oh, Grant didn't die. All right. Anyway, seeing that, I think is just like you're adding a whole new level of like depth to this story, from the sense of these characters from the show. They have a big impact on the its predecessor, but even though they weren't there, and so it helps it feel like this, like all interconnected, despite the fact that we don't see Nacho ever or Lalo ever in Breaking Bad. We know that they actually had a huge impact in the universe of that show.
If you think about it, Nacho is the one who sent all of them down their paths towards destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, because he overcame like every Salamanca, like Gus did too, just in different ways, like through gaining like all their respect. So I saw a video on it that
Yeah,
kind of
I knew exactly what
brought,
video that you were mentioning,
yeah,
a video, because I see that video too. It's really interesting. Yeah.
because I mean I agreed with it, but like that video really helped kind of like bring a lot of what I was thinking like into words,
Yeah.
where he like just kind of earns Hector's kind of, I guess not respect, but like in a way just kind of, we'll call it trust, because I don't
Yeah,
know the
it's his
exact word for
trust,
it
yeah,
right now.
because he belittles himself, like he makes himself look more
Mhm.
pathetic to appease Hector's ego. And with Tuco, it's like becoming as ruthless as he is, and with Lalo, because he's like a mix of Hector and Tuco, he has to do
With
a
the
bit of both.
twins,
Yeah, to put himself
yeah,
on
and
the
then with the
line, but also
twins,
to
like I said,
like show his respect. It's really interesting video. I don't remember the name, but I do recommend it.
how Nacho overcame all the Salamancas. That's the video title.
That's useful then. I'm gonna link it in
Yeah,
chat. So yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah.
I'm not sure
Oh,
overcame.
the biggest G that I would want by my side in this universe though is Lyle. All right, that dude is the most loyal employee I've ever seen. Asking to like, hey yo, Gus, like, you sure you want me to like leave? Like, weak ass scrawny little kid like me, and he's just like, yo, big boy, like, you need backup.
Yeah, I adore the fact you just like after Gus almost dies by Lalo and he just killed Lalo. It's just like, oh, can you open the store for me tomorrow? It's like, "Ah, yeah, no worries, man." It's just like it's such a, oh yeah, Gus is still dealing with fucking Los Pollos, even though like all this shit went down. It's so funny, and I think it's a good way to like break the tension that was so high in that moment with Gus. Just be
Right?
like, hey, Lyle. Good on Lyle. I like him. He's a great employee. I hope he gets employee of the month.
Oh, speaking of Los Pollos, I think their marketing with the Los Pollos Hermanos training videos was so genius.
Yeah.
That's like the most fun
Oh, all the
I think I've
employee
ever
training
had with
videos were
marketing.
great. They had one for was it Hamlin, I
Oh,
think, or Schweiker and Coakley. They had one for like legal shit as well.
they had one for Nacho, how to spot a counterfeit bill. There
Oh
was
yeah.
one with Mike on how to make a pimento cheese sandwich.
I remember
Um,
that.
I think there was one with Kim too. I can't remember what it was, but that one was
Yeah,
also really funny. Their
the
marketing
one
for the
with
show.
Kim, I'm pretty sure it was one that had Kim, Howard, and Jimmy, and it was about just like lawyer shit, and Jimmy mentioned something about like how you're not like actually required by law to appear as a juror if
Oh yeah,
you're
how to get
asked
out of
for.
being a juror. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And then
Kim is like, wait, you should say that. And I thought it was so funny because it's a weird law. I read about it afterwards to understand the joke, but it's a really funny that's what Jimmy says when everyone's like giving legal advice. Not legal advice, is explaining like your job as a juror. I think that was the entire point of the video. So yeah, these
and
I
then
haven't seen
Lalo
the
does
newer
comment
ones, but
on
they're all about the filmmaking crew that Jimmy hires from time to time, the
Oh
college
yeah.
filming crew, and yeah, I'm really curious to watch those. I haven't seen them yet though.
Have you seen the one with Lalo with the carne asada tacos?
Yes, I have.
That one's my favorite.
Man, yeah, no, this show is it is interesting, right? Because I think I've heard a few people say, and I agree, is that this show, because it's about, Jimmy, and it's not about someone like Walt, the stakes are way lower. So, like, it is more fun, I guess, in that sense, because we're just following, like, Jimmy goofing around and doing some shit. Uh, like scamming people, but he's not, like, hurting anyone or, like, he's not endangering his life until he gets mixed in with the cartel, and that's when the stakes get that high, and that's why Howard dies. But before that, it's just like it's a very fun show to just see Jimmy and Kim, like scam people or trick people, and not really care all that much. Like, oh my god, what's gonna happen to them? Because Jimmy basically has nothing to lose because what he realizes that the way everyone sees him is that he's always going to be a Silicon Jimmy. So it doesn't matter what he does to try to like stop people from thinking that. Which he even says to that one girl in is it season 4? That they interview that one girl at AJ Jam, and
I believe so.
yeah, then he's like, oh, they're always gonna think you're, a criminal. It's always gonna be your record, but you're gonna cut corners and you're gonna work hard, and everyone you're gonna show them. I was just like, oh man, Jimmy, you're talking to yourself, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, there's something that I'm pretty sure it was Bob Odenkirk said recently with the final episode coming out with him saying like uh some people got the wrong impression from this because they just don't have reading comprehension, but he was saying like the reason like Saul was so attracted to Walt is because of like the respect factor he was trying to get from everybody else,
Yeah.
especially with that line where Walt's like, "You were the last lawyer I would have chosen," and I like just reading that whole quote from Bob Odenkirk, it just made my heart break for Jimmy even more.
Oh yeah, it's was it you, Grant, who mentioned that to me? How like Walt was kind of like a substitute for Chuck.
The substitute for Chuck, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
because they were so alike in that way.
yeah, or it's Jimmy's
Sorry, what about Chuck?
that Walt True
being a
Jimmy.
substitute for Chuck.
Yeah, for True Jimmy, he's kind of a substitute for Chuck.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, because he says in that scene at the end, he's like, "So you were always like this."
Yeah, she's just a heartbreaking line. And it's also I mentioned this when I was watching the episode. I said it to Grant. I was like, oh, that's like the tea, not tea, pop me cattle. Because it's like you were always like this, Wall. You were always a fucking cunt. You didn't just this one, one day become bad because of your illness. You just decided to do it, and you use your illness as like a justification for it. But I do it is I guess it is kind of interesting when you think of Walt in that sense, because of how much Jimmy was always looking for approval and just show himself that he's like better than than what people believed he was. And so being involved in something this big is something that obviously would be very much something he wants, which is why he was despite Mike's reservations, Jimmy went to Walt's office anyway, which I think is just a really, really great moment in the show in the final season. Well, office, his fucking classroom, right? When and obviously the way it's also cut with Gene breaking into that guy that has cancer, breaking into his house to to showcase how this is like him Breaking Bad, which is why it's the name of the episode. It is not in fact named that because of the characters from Breaking Bad showing up. It is because Gene and Saul, they broke bad in those specific moments. How their descending to Breaking Bad is Jimmy wanting to prove he's better than what people believe him to be in the past and in the present. Him breaking into that guy's house just to, I guess, a sense of pride of like not caring anymore, because he likes being Slippin' Jimmy. He likes running these cons, but he's being stopped by like heavy morals. If he feels like being moral isn't like what he should do anymore. Like he says, he's gonna cut corners and he's gonna prove to everyone that he's better than that. And that was that obviously being after he calls Kim, and we have that conversation where she says, your life can't be much, like your life's probably not much right now, like you're not living much of a life. I don't know what your life is, but you're probably not living a very good life. And it's kind of like, it kind of breaks that thing into his mind where he's thinking, man, I gotta do something. Like I did all of this, but for what? Like, am I gonna be remembered? And he wants to be like a big deal. And he still, that's why he decides to break bad in that final episode. Not final episode, in Breaking Bad, the episode.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember what my original point was. I just rambled on because I really like talking about like the progression of the characters in this show.
This show is great. It's a good show to ramble on about.
Yeah.
I think the character that this show did a surprising amount for that I was never expecting was Mike.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Show did so much for his character, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I like what we were talking about before, just the way it kind of shows how he started doing this stuff for like his family and how he actually like does it, and it's not his excuse, it's his actual reason. And just
it's
seeing his struggle.
That line in Bagman where he says, I do this for the people I love, and whether I live or I die, it doesn't matter, as long as I know that my family's okay. I'm like, yeah, this is just like fantastic understanding of Mike. Like, because obviously he had a big aversion to killing, but he understood that these people, they're in the game, and he's going to do what he has to do. He's going to be pragmatic about it, because what matters isn't whether he's okay or whether these people who put themselves in the game, as they call it, are okay. What matters is that he takes care of his family.
I just realized you said pragmatic, not pregnant. I was like so confused for a second.
Mike is not pregnant, he's pragmatic. I'm afraid he can't get pregnant.
He's going to produce a kid who looks just like him and name it Finger.
Yeah, exactly.
Amen.
He's telling Walter to put his dick away.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's having sex with him right now, Walter.
Really quick, unfortunately I have some housekeeping to do, so I'm gonna have to dip out. But just one quick thing that I wanted to say, that I didn't get to mention yet, that I thought was really, really poignant about the finale was the time machine motif.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I think that last scene with Chuck is not only like one that's definitely the answer that his like real answer to the time machine question, because like if he actually went back and actually finished that conversation with Chuck, how differently would things be? Like
Yeah.
it's
agree
just
Yeah, if he actually tried to connect with Chuck when Chuck, wanted to, as opposed to just shutting him down as he always does. Like Chuck says, every conversation goes the same. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really, really great moment of, like you said, like explaining what the answer is without actually being like explicit, because Jamie always mentions like, oh, I would have been invested in whatever and be a billionaire, like he says to Mike, because he doesn't want
Yeah.
to actually like showcase his true feelings, which is why it's so much more powerful when he actually does showcase his true feelings in that confession. Oh yeah. Anyway, if you do have
Yeah.
to leave, Grant.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having some people over for dinner tonight, so I have to get ready.
No
Make sure your
problem.
lighthouse is all good, and make sure a mermaid does not show up on your shore, please.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But thank you so much for having me on. This
Of
was
course.
awesome, and I look forward to our next one when we talk about Kung Fu Panda.
Oh yes, when we realize that Kung Fu Panda 2 is not as good as people think. Anyway, yeah. See you later, Grant.
We'll
Bye,
see.
Grant. Have a good day.
We'll see.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, one man down. Oh my god. But yeah, I think we still have quite a bit to say about Better Call
Now
Saul.
I'm the only guy in this chat. What the fuck? Am I like gay?
Yes.
Damn.
I mean, you asked, so I'm sorry.
Hey, well, you're the one who wants it. You know what? I'm not gonna mention that. Actually, that's a little weird.
Good. All right. Well, anyway, still a few things that I think are interesting to talk about. Like you were saying, Mike. He was on something that I really want to touch on as well, is because his relationship with his daughter-in-law and his granddaughter fleshed up.
Fuck that. His relationship with Nacho is much better. That kid can get punted for all I care. Nacho is that man's trinket. Okay, that child. It is a speed bump compared to Nacho. That man is beautiful, and I'm so mad the MCU wasted him. All right, the show.
Look, they
It's
also
amazing,
wasted
and it's
Tawny Dalton and
What about him? Michael Mondo is God.
No, yeah, but it's Tawny Dalton, bro. He played fucking Lalo, and he plays a really shitty villain in Hawkeye.
Jesus, he wasn't Hawkeye. That show is so forgettable to me.
I never watched it. I just know he was in it. But anyway, even though I agree that Nacho is Mike's true child,
Okay, glad we're on the same page.
yeah, I really do love his relationship with Kaylee and fuck, what's the mother's name?
Your mom.
Sure. Well, yeah, I forgot her name, but I do really love it, and I do really love how they explore that through the lens of Mike, I guess, coming to terms with his hand in getting his son killed, because ultimately, yeah, it was his fault, as he says, I broke my boy. Just one of the best scenes in the show, just because like that fucking performance, dear lord, Jonathan Banks deserved that Emmy.
Yeah, no, for real. It was amazing. You never expected to really see that much depth from Mike, but like it really gave it to us in this show, and it was
Yeah.
probably like one of the best things I think I've ever seen put to television.
Yeah, no, Mike, he becomes such a layered character, and having what you said about about him doing it for his family, and I mentioned the dialogue in Bagman, but it's not by that point he wouldn't have gotten to that point if he weren't for the shit with Werner, which I think is just a phenomenal arc he has in season 4, where he needs to learn that, yeah, like if he's gonna be on this doing a job like this, he's gonna have to kill people. It's not like something he can avoid, and it hurts him so much because he's killing Werner the same way those cops killed his son, and so he's learning like, I can have a code, and I'm gonna stick to it, but my code doesn't like. It's not about like, oh, I'm not gonna kill if because I don't want to. It's like, no, I'm gonna deal with it in a way where I'm doing it for pragmatic reasons. As long as this benefits my family, as long as this keeps my family safe and gets money for them to live, that's all that matters. And ultimately, that's what he does throughout the show is just keep sustaining his daughter-in-law's life.
Oh yeah,
With
and
Kaylee.
it's like, I mean, it really shows like how well they can really just build these relationships off like these different characters, and even give like such depth to side characters. Like we only see Stacey Ehrmantraut once in Breaking Bad, and that's when Mike drops Kaylee off with Stacey in the one episode. And then, oh, all of a sudden we're getting all this character from Stacey and seeing her relationship with Mike, and it's like, wow, like this is some good shit like that I would never have expected to see from a character we only saw once in the entire like previous show.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I also really like that you mentioned that Nacho is his actual son, because obviously it's a joke, but it is interesting because fuck's sake, because he does have that same kind of relationship with Jesse by the end of Breaking Bad, and I've seen a few people say, and I think it's fair to think it as well, that the reason why, well, firstly, that when Mike says he had a guy, it's fair to think it might have been Nacho, but it's also more of the, if that his relationship with Jesse is kind of like a surrogate for his relationship with Nacho, well, because it is so similar, and he sees both Nacho and Jesse as like people who are kind of caught up in this situation where they can't get out of, through like not really like they got into the game, as they call it, through like their own making, and they're trying to get out, and he's trying to help them. But it just becomes so hard when dealing with everything in the situation, having to deal with Gus and having to deal with Walt and everything, and then obviously with Nacho having to deal with Lalo, especially. I guess to a point where it's why it's called Rock and a Hard Place, the episode where Nacho dies, because Nacho was caught between a rock and a hard place. There was no way to get him out, other than if he died, which is why he kills himself. But the point is to protect his own father. And so I do think it's interesting that we do see kind of like these two relationships being very much the same in both shows. And we kind of understand why we understand more as to why he would have, I guess, cared about Jesse so much in Breaking Bad. And it makes, I think, the scene in the beginning of El Camino hit harder once you realize it's just like, just if I was your age, if I had that kind of money, I'd fucking go to Alaska. Yeah, I could start you could start a new life there. So it's the last frontier. I do quite like that. I really like that, and I really like that Jesse took his advice as well. Because
yeah.
Yeah, because
something I really think Better Call Saul did with its side characters really well too is when we see Don Eladio in Breaking Bad a couple times, he's, as Gus calls him, this a fat, greasy pimp that's just by his poolside all the time, And
Yeah.
even though the next time we do see him is at his poolside again in season 6, it does a lot more than just show he's this party dude. It kind of does the same thing that we see for the flashback in Breaking Bad, where like he has Hector kill Max.
Yeah.
Like when he's talking in that scene in Better Call Saul, he's incredibly punctual. His body posture is just kind of, it's a little laid back, but that's because he's the boss and he knows this is his place. And it really kind of like makes you think, oh shit, so this is how Don Eladio really is when he's doing his business stuff. Like he's not this fat pimp. He's a guy that you don't want to mess with. Just smoking his cigar, giving everybody this kind of stare down, and really giving himself this presence, especially with like the lighting in that scene where it's like dark and there's just that glimmer of light shining on him while everyone else is kind of more lit up. He's more so in the dark, and so is Gus, because it shows that those two are the ones in control in the scene. And I really really adore that scene a lot.
Well, you
Because of
mentioned
like
the
the way
lighting
how
as well in that
Mario.
scene, and the way the fucking fire reflects on Gus's glasses is some of my favorite cinematography in the entire show. It's just so fucking
Me too.
fantastic. Yeah, no, it's that rage that he feels, and he even says to Gus, it's like it's good, like it's fine if you're rageful or whatever, but you got to remember who's boss. Um, and it's
Right?
yeah, it is like holy crap, you're understanding so much of like how um Gus feels about Don Eladio without him saying a word, and Don Eladio knowing that he hates him. And it's kind of like obviously because you see a few scenes like of Don Eladio in Breaking Bad where he's like, I guess trying to just like have a fun time with Gus, like in that scene that he gets poisoned, just like hey,
Yeah.
let's come have a
It's
drink.
also,
But it's also like
yeah, it's
now we
also like
understand that he knows that Gus hates him, so it gets to
yeah, and even when he's being punctual, he's also trying to do that fun thing you were just talking about,
a
where he's like, "Hey, you got to be put in your place every 20 years." Like after like Gus is kind of like screwing off the cartel with the blue sky meth and all that, and he's like, "Yo, you like need to bring your cook here, or else like you're gonna be in big trouble." So that's why he sent that hitman to like your send off facility or whatever, where all the trucks are going and stuff like that.
uh-huh.
Gotta be put in your place, come have a few drinks, yada yada yada. We're still having fun. I know you're pissed, but hey, Don Eladio.
Yeah, it's because Don Eladio, him knowing after seeing that scene in Better Call Saul, him knowing that Gus hates him, I think it makes his death hit harder because he saw himself as kind of like untouchable. Not hit harder in the sense of like it makes you emotional, but like you get what I mean. Like it seems there's more depth to it because it makes it seem like there is more to Eladio's downfall and to the extent of the rage that Gus feels to a point where he's willing to sacrifice his well-being and everything just because he wants Eladio to die. Um, and he puts
I
Jesse
also
in danger in that
kind
scene
of
as well and whatnot. So,
that scene also still does the little fun Eladio thing though, where he's like, I would invite you to breakfast, but you don't want to hear ding 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 all the
yeah, the
time.
ding ding ding. But that's the funny thing is because he makes the ding 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 so menacing. It's like I don't know. I maybe it's the way it's framed or whatever, but it is a. I love that moment. It is funny because it's like Eladio doesn't respect anyone. He doesn't care about Salamancas either. He's just doing this because he wants money, and he's so powerful that he doesn't care. And it's interesting because you had that scene with Nacho and Eladio, where he asked Nacho what he wanted, and Nacho said, "I don't want you, be respected. I want to never have to look over my shoulder." And say, "Oh, you're in the wrong line of business if you want that," which obviously rings true in the sense of, you know, Eladio dies because of that, because of people that work for him, trying to kill him, betraying his trust. But it's also because but it's also interesting because it shows like his, I guess, philosophy of I control everything. I am the big guy, and which is why Nacho says it because he wants to impress him. But I also know that I have to look over my shoulder. I'm not never gonna like let go of doing that. Otherwise, I'm gonna die. And the way Gus ends up killing him is because Gus also drinks the poison fucking bottle of the drink. Uh, which I find awesome that he drinks it and then he goes throws it up and then he spends like ages like in being cared for in a hospital just because of how much he hated fucking Don Eladio and he had to kill him. It's really great.
Right. I'm gonna shut up for a second though. I gotta go piss, so I'll be right back.
Oh damn. But yeah, no, Zod, you said you want to talk. You had more to say in terms of Better Call Saul. What do you want to talk about in Better Call Saul?
But one thing, going back to Mike, one thing I like about his sort of journey in the show is just sort of how he he sort of declines more into like the kind of person he hates.
Yeah.
Like early on, you get like in the grief counseling group, he meets this woman who lost her husband and she has no idea what happened to him. So he goes out of his way to find him and get her those answers. And then we'll get to season 6, and now he's basically putting Hal's wife through that exact same thing. And yeah, just the end of that episode, point and shoot, isn't it?
Yes. No. It's plan. Wait. No. Which episode is it? The episode where they after Howard dies, or?
Yeah, the one where they buried bodies.
Yeah, I think it is point and shoot.
Yeah, just that last scene of Mike not only giving Howard just this really sort of undignified burial, but also putting him with the person who killed him. It's just it's so disrespectful, but at the same time, it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things that happens, and you can just see like it's still entirely in like how Jonathan Banks performs it.
Yeah.
It's his acting that carries it entirely. Just you see exactly what he's thinking in that moment. It's just it hurts him. He hates that this is what happened because it's a guy who just wasn't in the game. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Mike really hates that sort of thing, but that's just he accepts it because that's just the life he's gotten himself into.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because of his answer, I think, to the time travel question is that he go back to the day he took his first bribe and then go from there. Because I think he regrets getting into the game so much. And he realizes now that it's like, not only did he cause his own son to die, he caused himself like to die a bit. Like he became what he hated, as you said. So, even though he's doing it for his family, I do think he understands that having less money, but having had like that happy family would have been so much better, but he's too far gone, which is why he still does it like to take care of his family. Which I think is just a really interesting like layer of like inner conflict that he has. And it makes his death even more tragic because every time I think of his death, I fucking hate Walt so much for killing him.
Yeah, I think
I have returned. Oh shit! No, I'm not. I just spilt my drink. Be right back.
You twat.
Yeah. Anyway, continues on.
I think it's obvious, but the scene where it all sort of really comes together is his last one with Nacho's dad.
Oh yeah.
And even in just like the visuals, like you get that one shot of.
Oh yeah, because he's behind the fence, and as if he's trapped inside this life, and the dad is on the other side. Yeah, I love that one shot.
Yeah, and Nacho's dad just makes it very clear to him that, like, despite what you think, just at the end of the day,
you're just
really
like
just not that much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just perpetuating just the same thing to keep happening over and over.
Yeah.
And it just gives him there's so many layers that, well, once you go back into Breaking Bad, you have more understanding of who he is, and it just elevates him just so much.
Well, what I think is interesting is because I've seen a lot of people mention it was like seasons ago, but now I think especially after the resolutions of season 6, how when he says to Walt that he doesn't want to kill him in is that season 4? It is season 4, right? When he goes through Executor. No, it's the end of season 3. Yeah, it's because it's when Jesse kills Gale. Yeah, because it's the cliffhanger. When he says he doesn't want to kill him, he's like being truthful. It's like, I don't want to kill you. Like, if it were up to me, I would kill you. And he says, I'm sorry. He actually is sorry. And it kind of like, it makes me feel bad for Mike that he's always put in these situations where he has to do these things that go against like what he wants just because like he's in the game and he can't get out of it. It's really quite sad. And Mike is a very tragic character in that sense.
yeah, it adds a bit more layer to.
What'd you say, Ethan?
Oh, I was just being retarded.
Oh, that's
shit!
fine.
I can't say stuff on stream. My bad.
No, you can. Don't worry. We say it retarded all the time. Don't worry. Don't be retarded. Anyways,
Oh, okay.
continue.
Yeah, it adds more layers to just how dedicated he is to protecting his guys in prison as well. Just like all these people he's had to kill, like in both these shows, just sort of how far he's gone. Just like, just doesn't really want like the same fate to come to all these guys who have just worked so loyally together, and yeah, it wants like at least someone in the life to sort of. Well, it's like just like they sort of deserve better than just to be executed just purely just for being part of the life and because some bold egotistical fuckwit doesn't trust them and yeah, it's just like you watch Breaking Bad and you like see all these elements of Mike's character and you just think back to like how Better Call Saul just sort of builds up to just sort of earns all these things and elevates them. You just I don't know, just like before you'd sort of think of him more as like just back when Breaking Bad was just a thing. You think of Mike more as just he's a bit not flat, just more. He's not got as much to him. Like he's just much more of a assassin sort of guy who's very to the point on the job and
Yeah, that is exactly what you think of Mike in Breaking Bad, and then just Better Call Saul just changes that completely, and it's just that's one of the things, like I was saying, it makes Breaking Bad that much better. Just the way it kind of changes some things up on you, and it's just like, oh, like Ignacio or Lalo sent you, like you realize who they're talking about, and you're just like, damn, like that is who they were talking about, or
Yeah.
damn, that's how that works. And especially I'd say with the connection where it makes Gus's connection with Max deeper, because you only get the one scene with Max, and it's that flashback scene in Breaking Bad, and it just kind of it already lays the groundwork for what Gus's motivations are. But not Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul just deepens that so much more for Gus, and it just makes the flashback scene that much better. It makes Don Eladio's death that much more satisfying for the audience when you go and rewatch Breaking Bad. And it's like that's why I think Better Call Saul is just like a perfect show because of how much it does for its universe and its characters and all its world building. It's just perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah,
because you
because-
mentioned I'll go first. You mentioned the Max shit with Gus. I think it's interesting because they confirmed that he's gay in the show, and basically Max was his boyfriend. Peter Gould has confirmed it. Understanding their relationship better, and then seeing Gus in that scene after all is said and done, and Gus is like he wants to be with that guy who he has like sort of a an intimate relationship with, maybe even if it's not like they probably never go out, just probably only talk when they're in that one restaurant. Seeing him leave and just be like, oh, tell him something came up, like he can't have this life, and it's kind of like what Don Eladio took from him, and it makes like that drive for him wanting to kill Don Eladio so much more satisfying. And so as you said, that it does so much for characters, it does so much for like everyone in this show, to add like layers of it, or that recontextualize stuff that you never think would need recontextualization to be more impactful, but they do, and they are. And it kind of makes you feel bad for even characters that are pieces of shit, like Gus. Gus is not a good person, even though I do really like Gus as a character. He's not really a good person, but you can understand a lot of where he's coming from for all of his character journey, even in Breaking Bad when he kills Don Eladio and Hector. Well, when he tortures Hector emotionally, not when he kills him, because Hector kills himself. Anyway, sorry, Zod, you were gonna say something and I interrupted you.
To say more generally, it's why I think Better Call Saul is better written and it's just more impressive as a show than Breaking Bad as a whole, because like you have Breaking Bad and like it's like entirely new story. You have the freedom to do whatever the hell you want,
Yeah.
and it's your story to tell just from beginning to end. Just yeah, it's all yours. But then you come up with a prequel. You start doing that, and you get a lot more restrictions. Like you have
That
these.
is how you do a prequel Star Wars, you dumb motherfuckers.
You have.
Tim
Okay,
died.
bye.
Oh, Tin's gone. Bye-bye.
That happens at least once a stream, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's
This
fine.
Tin needs a better network connection, damn it.
I think it's her laptop actually that starts lagging out. She needs a better laptop.
Oh, I can buy her one.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, go on, Zod.
Yeah, like you have, just like Breaking Bad will establish all these things that happened in the past, and as a prequel, you're like, right, so we've got to account for the fact that these things happened. Plus, you have all these future events that okay, so we've got to lead into these things. We can't like really deviate or just do what we want. It still leads to this, and
well, it's what I find
Okay.
interesting is like leading into all of that, and it's like it restricts itself as well by the way it starts by being about Jimmy, and we know he's gonna end up as Saul, and you're like, how the fuck, is he gonna become Saul? Because he's so far away from that. And there are moments in the show where he goes like really, really far from becoming Saul. But then when you get to season 6 and you understand that it is because Kim left, and you're like, oh, everything makes sense now. It does a lot of that for like, I think Jimmy especially is the most impressive, where you don't expect to, like, it's hard to predict what the journey to becoming Saul is. But when we get there, it's like, oh, this makes sense. But sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, I think like when you do a prequel, when you're including these elements that are from the original, like all these characters and parts of the world building, I think that inescapably you're gonna recontextualize things.
Yeah.
Like that's just undeniable. It's gonna happen, and so sort of, but to do the best job possible, you need to try to like just to try and recontextualize it in the most positive way you can, and just the show just really just knocks it out of the park spectacularly.
Yeah, it's
Like,
the kind
it
of
has
thing
so many-
where sorry, finish your thought. I keep interrupting you.
it adds so many layers to all these different characters that like, you wouldn't even think would need them, but yeah. It just
Not for
gives-
real. Like it perfectly explains why Gus was just not looking at that woman's ass at Don Eladio's party. All right, he is gay. Women's ass is not for him.
That's the answers we
Nothing.
need, That's what we want for a prequel.
Yeah, honestly.
But it's interesting though, because I was thinking, as you said that, Zod, I was thinking of Solo, a Star Wars story, because of how that stupid film is like, oh, see, the name Solo came because this random guard was like, yo, you're alone, you don't have family. That's kind of cool. What if I call you Solo? And it's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Or making whatchamacallit, that retarded robot.
L337, I think.
Is that it? I thought it was K3SO, but that might be from Rogue One.
K3SO. K2SO is from Rogue One.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we like K2SO.
I don't know what you mean, though. All right, the Solo. All right, I got to see Han and Chewbacca shower together. That was
Yes, but anyway, my point being, that film is like, oh, actually, the Millennium Falcon has this random droid that is annoying and nobody likes in this film that Lando wanted to fuck inside it. Like, it is. And you're like, how the fuck do you recontextualize that? And then you get your Better Call Saul, and it's like, oh, the recontextualizations here all make it better. It all like they give the story more meaning as opposed to just doing this dumb shit to be like, oh, see, we're adding stuff to the lore. Now we're knowing how these gaps fill in. And like, no, but like the story shouldn't be about how these gaps fill in. It should be like about the characters. And you can have like fill in the gaps, but have to make something out of it. You can't just be like, oh, we're explaining things. Oh, this is how we got the Millennium Falcon, even though it's a contradiction to A New
Well,
Hope.
it's also when like they create more gaps in the story too. Like, hey, yo, by the way, Darth Maul's also now this super fucking cool gang leader.
And we're never
and then
gonna
that
bring him
just
back
goes nowhere.
again. Yeah, because we don't.
Like,
Solo didn't make
how does
money.
he go from that to this lone ass hippie bitch in the desert that like fights people flying on helicopter lightsabers?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, and it's I do really appreciate the show for. It's like, because I remember people being like, oh my god, they're explaining how they built the fucking meth lab. Also, Ethan, did you change your mic?
I cannot. I don't know.
Well, it's because you sound very different, and now you sound like you're breathing into your mic. Before you sounded perfect, now you sound like you're way too close to it.
Shit, what the fuck happened? I know what happened. Hold on.
You fucking cringe lord. Anyway, my point being, I remember people being like, oh my god, they're explaining how they built the meth lab. Why? We don't need to see this. And then it's like, oh, actually, this is a story about Mike and his anti-kill rule, and how he actually needs to break that rule by the end to kill Werner, because it's the only way that his wife can like survive the situation, like Werner's wife. And obviously because, he needs to listen to Gus, because if he doesn't, he's fucked, because, well, it is Gus Fring, isn't it? Like, that's what the story is about, or how it ties in with Lalo, and how, Lalo relates to Gus, Nacho, and Mike as characters. It's like, you have these gaps that are being filled in, but we don't actually see how they build a fucking meth lab. We know that Mike, worked on getting the lab ready after the events of the episode season 6, but that's not really what was important. Showing the process of it being built was supposed to build character and characterize a lot of Werner, and Werner in relation to Mike. And that's what's, I think, missing from a lot of prequels, is to understand that you can fill in these gaps, but you got to do something interesting with it. You can't just like be saying these random shit, that this random shit happens just because it's like, oh, you see, we're filling in the gaps. You like this character, we're telling more about this character's story, history, as opposed to doing anything that matters with it. So yeah, I think Better Call Saul does that masterfully. Tin, hi, you died for a second. Was your laptop? Was I right?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yay! So now Ethan owes you a new laptop. He promised he would buy you one. Knowing,
Yeah, I said I could.
I mean, knowing you, Ethan, you would. But anyway,
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
you're weird.
No shit. But like, what is that specifically supposed to mean?
Aren't you weird? You just said no shit, so I think my point here is proven. Anyway, we're talking about Better Call Saul. Tin, do you have something you want to talk about Better Call Saul? We were just talking about how the recontextualizations of the show are really meaningful.
Yeah, we just recontextualized that this guy's a dipshit.
That was been contextualized since ECUM 1. Just the fact that we agreed to do it with Tin, not with Tin, with Soapy. You must be very upset that I confused you with Soapy, but anyway.
Fuck.
Anyway, to be fair, agreeing to do ECUM 1 with Tin wasn't a good idea either, but Soapy was probably a bit worse.
Yo, get fucked in.
So anyway, Tin, what do you have anything you want to talk about in terms of Better Call Saul?
We're calling on you. Better call Tin.
Better Call Tin.
And anyway, yeah, for recontextualization, yes. Well, the thing is, like, basically, like, you probably talked about this while I was away, but any good prequel, like, recontextualizes at least a few things to improve the original in some film or manner. Whereas here it basically masters the craft of recontextualizing just any old thing to make it meaningful and just show how much hardship went into it. You brought up like the super lab, how like how so much thought and effort went into this one arc about the super lab, and like it just sort of adds a bit more context to when Mike is angry at Walt and Jesse for blowing the bastard thing up because he knows how much pain and suffering went into building the thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Because like now he knows that it was all for nothing now.
Yeah, killing
Now
it kind of makes it feel like killing Werner didn't achieve anything, and it's something that pained him so much.
Yeah, especially during his outburst where it says we had a good thing going with Fring and all that. And you see that they really did have a good thing going, and Walter really does just come in and fuck it all up. So it does. Just adds more and more context for how things were.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the show is fucking amazing in that area of expertise, I guess.
Oh yeah, Better Call Saul has also set a new standard for courtroom scenes for me. I will be comparing any courtroom scene to a scene from Better Call Saul and just being like, is it as good as this or better? And if it's not, fail. Not necessarily a fail, but
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Well, I'm sure you were disappointed less than a week after the show ended.
Oh yeah, we had the amazing She-Hulk.
Woo!
Yeah, honestly, the fact they admitted they don't know how to write courtroom dramas less than 2 days after Better Call Saul ended is either really stupid or really brave.
Well, it's funny because the one of the Better Call Saul writers is writing for Echo. And it's like, well, but we hired them to write Echo, not this lawyer show. Even though they know how to write lawyer things, you know, them and the Daredevil writers, they're also working on Echo. And Marvel's stupid, guys. Hot take.
That's not a hot take.
Just a bit.
What is your guys' favorite courtroom scene from Better Call Saul, though? I think mine is the one where it's about that gas station robbery and Saul's asking the guy, like, you're sure this is the guy? And the dude's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
no,
it's
like, I saw
hilarious.
his face. And then the guy's
It's
like,
like, oh no,
in the way
actually.
back in the room.
Yeah, I always find that funny. But I think, well, it's kind of, it depends, right? Because I guess the scene in the final episode is a courtroom scene, but you know, it's not funny. It is more, it's just like a very character driven scene. If I don't know if that'll count, or if you just mean when Jimmy is defending someone.
Just like any courtroom scene. It can be where he's defending or something, or like, you know, it's the very end one.
Yeah, so I would say the one in Saul Gone is the best. I do really like quite a few scenes from a few courtroom scenes. I love the one with Lalo, where he's defending Lalo, and he looks at the family and you can tell Jimmy's hurting a lot that he's gonna have to do this, but he's also like, I can't not do this because otherwise I am dead. I'm just gone if I don't defend Lalo. And it's because Nacho had just said to him as well, once you're in, you're in. And so I do really like that scene because of what it does for Jimmy as a character. I do really love the one in episode 1 where he's defending the boys who fucked Skull because, well, it's kind of self-explanatory. They fucked.
Look, bro, sometimes you're down bad.
Yeah, so, life's rough sometimes, and you just gotta stick it in the skull. But I do find it funny because of the absurdity of what he is defending, and it's really the way it's directed and everything. It's really funny. Yeah, I don't know. They do have many of these like fun scenes, and also like sometimes making them these scenes go into like more serious territory, or sometimes just making the scenes that usually the setting would be very fun turn them into like these super depressing scenes, I guess, where we see a character from how far they've come. Like for example, when we see in is this Saul Gone? I think it might be I think it might be before, when we see Kim going to the court in Albuquerque, and she sees the booth that Mike worked at, and it's empty, and there's just a machine doing Mike's old job, and you're kind of like, oh fuck, Mike's gone, Mike's dead by this point. And it just breaks my heart because I'm like, oh man, I really like Mike. And it's just a simple shot of seeing that, or when we see the exit sign and during Jimmy's speech, in the final episode when he mentions his brother, because obviously his brother had the electricity shit, and we had the exit sign shot during Chicanery, which is the episode where he finally like fully brought down his brother. Yeah, I don't know. I think this show does that a lot, really well, with just having these things that were referenced before. Maybe they had like this humorous effect to them. It turned into something that's more meaningful that I quite love. Yeah, I think we haven't talked enough about Kim Wexler because she is the best. And Zod, what do you think about Kim? What do you have to say about Kim?
First off, give the actress an Emmy.
Yes, Ray Seahorn, for the love of God, she needs to win an Emmy this year and the next for season 6A and B.
Just a bit on the bus alone. It's just, well, that's it. That's all we need.
Yeah, that'll be for next year. So if she doesn't win it this year, it doesn't mean she isn't going to be awarded for it. But yeah, she also deserves it for season 6A, I think.
Yeah.
I'm gonna interrupt you again. Fuck you. But just the scene where Lalo shows up at their place, and we see the fucking candle flickering, and we see her and Jimmy's reactions. It's just like Bob Odenkirk and Ray Seahorn. Dear Lord, you're so fucking great. It's insane how good they are. But anyway, Zod, Kim.
Yeah, because it's been said before about how they just have this scheme to ruin Hal's reputation so that they can get the Sandpiper money. And for her, it's all about the fun, not the money. And that's why she doesn't tell Jimmy about Lalo, because she just wants to keep doing that. But then it all goes through, everything works. But then, obviously Howard's gone. He gets shot. And it changes everything for her, because even though you can't say definitively it's her fault or their faults, because no, it's not, because they couldn't possibly have planned for him to be in there at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a wrong place, wrong time sort of thing. But she still takes on the guilt of that, because if it weren't for what they'd done, then he wouldn't have any reason to be there. And even just outside of that, just the fact that now that's going to be his reputation permanently, just a drug addict who destroyed his own firm, and that's all their fault. And she just can't really deal with that. So she gets out of the law, and then we get this, just they break up, and it's one of the best scenes in the show, that
Yes,
them two breaking up, because
and it has such a unique visual style as well.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite scene of Kim, mommy. But so like just that scene, I think like it's really good because I mean, given what we already talked about with like it's kind of contrast to the scene where Walter's admitting stuff to Skylar. In that one, he's like super depressed because this dude knows he's about to die. He a bitch, she still has like a chance to like go out, live her life and stuff like that. And it's just really heartbreaking seeing that scene, not just for Jimmy, because you're feeling bad for him because you're like, oh shit, not Jimmy, like, because he's gonna progress to Saul, but you really don't want him to, even though it's gonna happen. She's still able to get out of there and she's able to live her life, and just hearing just her heartbreak when she breaks up with him and just saying like, I didn't tell you about Lalo because of this and this, and we're just not good for each other. It's just probably like one of the best examples of acting in Better Call Saul that I have ever seen.
Mhm.
Like in that show or just any show in general. She does such a phenomenal job, and that scene is probably, other than Nacho's death, my favorite scene in the entire show, just because of how well acted it is, how well the cinematography is done in it, and like Sky was saying, the visual style in that scene is really fucking good. And just the Howard being like the set off for her to kind of be like, no, I've got to like finally admit to myself, I'm just doing this for fun. I'm doing this for me, and it's not good anymore. I can't keep up with this. It's probably, I think it is probably the best scene in the show. It's just so well done.
Yeah, so it's just as a breakup scene, it's just so like realistic and grounded. Just like Jimmy on the receiving end of it, just being so desperate to just stop it from happening. Just whatever it takes, he'll do it to keep them together.
Until she mentions
And
Lalo, at which point she goes into the room to pack, and he just stays there.
Yeah, and like from her, like just the fact that she hates it because she does still love him, but at the end of the day, she knows that they do make each other worse. Like they're just like both the worst sides of themselves just come out, just doing this stuff together.
I love the way she delivers when he says I love you, when she says I love you too, but so what? Like that so what is just so like raw, I guess, the way she delivers it. And she's just like she's understanding. She's finally got to a point where it's like the fact we love each other doesn't matter when we keep hurting each other and other people just by being together.
Yeah.
Like
and Saul's line in that one too, just we make each other happy. How can that be bad? I just, oh man.
It's just such a fantastic dialogue scene. And yeah, I mentioned the visual style. I love how the camera follows them through the debate, and it's like this handheld, and then like it seems like the cameras, the debate is all in the camera, so they move from one room to the next, and so the debate is moving, the discussion is moving, and then once Jimmy kind of accepts it, I guess. Once she mentions Lalo, when she goes into the room, the camera hangs on him as Kim goes, to pack her shit in the bedroom, and we just hang on his reaction of being like, oh fuck, you knew about Lalo. And I think it's so interesting, like that, I guess, the realization, the confession that she knew about Lalo, because it showcases so much of like how bad they are for each other. It's not just that they hurt other people. She actively didn't tell them, and that ended up putting them in more danger. And that would have stopped, as she says, like that would have stopped their scheme against Howard, and she didn't want him to stop. And that would have averted like everything that happened. And it's just like it all happened because of her, in a sense, like the way she feels it. And Jamie's just like, holy crap, you didn't tell me something like this, when like she knows how much Lalo like traumatized him, I guess. So it is such a like that turning point to the discussion, the breakup scene, that I think is just really beautiful, where Jimmy stops trying to save it because he's just kind of baffled by what she just said.
Yeah. Also, just like the way he says "I love you" as well. Just the way he delivers it is, it's just not. It's like a really sad puppy, and
well, yeah, it's
really sad.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they obviously they've never said "I love you" on screen before. Racy Horn says that she thinks they have said "I love you" before off screen. I disagree. I think their relationship fits a lot better with the way they show affection to each other being not like explicit, because it's kind of what encapsulates that whole like scene with them smoking in Saul Gone in the prison, because like we have this moment of intimacy between them. It's just them sharing a cigarette, and it's like not saying many words. This is what their relationship is. It's not about like these big these big like love confessions or anything like that. It is about
The
these
passion of what they do together.
yeah, it's like their
then, like-
affection to each other is shown through their actions and just like how intimate they are without actually like saying it explicitly. So yeah,
Yeah, and it ties into something stupid with the whole, and then I go and spoil it all by
saying something stupid like I love you, yeah, which is just a fantastic way to tie it back to that. Especially because of how much that montage had an impact on like the show as a whole, I guess. Because I think I mentioned earlier, when Grant was still here, about how the montage showcases how they're growing apart as they their relationship gets more settled, and they don't like have schemes to pull, like they're just living their life normally, and until they have a scheme to pull, which is to help heal, they're just growing apart. And then by this point, it's that they have done these schemes, and Kim has admitted that she did it because she was having too much fun. So that's why she kept doing it. That's why she was doing this. It's all because she wanted to have fun. She was looking for that thrill, and then finally admitting that, and finally having them say "I love you," and that having causing them to be to well, that doesn't cause them to break up, but understanding how they break up after that, after saying "I love you," because their love doesn't really matter in terms of how much they hurt other people, and how these schemes are what hurts people, and that kind of ties in perfectly with the point of that montage, which is like understanding that their relationship was very unhealthy in that sense. So yeah, good stuff. I probably talked way like not as good as I could have. My brain right now, I'm very sick. I very much trying to keep it together.
That's what we're used to, Sky. I don't know what you mean. It's not just you being sick. You're brain dead.
That's fair. Anyway, I do really like as well how well I think we should talk a little bit about Chuck, because I really like Chuck. I think no, I don't know if I like him. Well, I do like him. I feel bad for him at points. I think he's very egotistical character, very prideful character, but also someone who hasn't done all that much wrong. And that
He's
he ends up
faking
being
his
punished.
thing. All right, film theory said so. He's a faker.
Oh, did Map Pad actually make that theory?
Wait, did they do a video on it?
I have no idea, to be honest.
I think he actually did a video on the.
Me too.
No, he did a video. I remember watching that video. The point of the video was to know whether it was real or not, the condition, because this was before like it was confirmed in chicanery. I think it was at the end of season 2. He made a video about whether or not his condition is real or if it's all in his head. But I don't think he ever said he's faking it. Because I hope he did.
Film theory has been around as a channel that long. That's crazy to me.
What? No, film theory is ancient. Like,
Yeah, no, I didn't realize that though, because I just kind of stopped caring about game theory and like film theory a long ass time ago.
Yeah, but Matt Pat's like
A meme.
Jesus.
No. No, don't call him that. That's giving him too much credit.
Fine, he's Muhammad.
Okay,
Sure.
that's better.
Sure, that makes sense. Anyway, I was like, oh yeah, Chuck. I really think Chuck is a really great character, and I love that we see him again at the end, and that he actually did try to There's a point where he tried to actually connect with Jimmy, and it is interesting because we see the relationship being very strained, but it's something I heard a lot of the makers of the show talking about in the audio commentaries, is how the two, Michael McKean and Bob Odenkirk, they play these brothers who, like, they have this tension between them of being, not really being in good terms, but they're still brothers, they still love each other, and they have this fantastic chemistry playing that. And how it kind of showcases like the, I guess, deeply tragic nature of Jimmy causing Chuck to kill himself, and how Chuck never like fully acknowledged Jimmy as someone who like was capable of doing the things he set out to do, because he always saw Jimmy as like, oh, he's always going to be Slippin' Jimmy, he's always going to be this failure, and so having this as he says, is like a Slippin' Jimmy with a law degree is like a Chip with a machine gun, and I love his fucking analogies and expressions; they're phenomenal. And he says like Jimmy's never gonna change, that he's gonna keep hurting people, and he's gonna apologize for it, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, I'm sorry, because he's Jimmy, but he's gonna do it again, so why bother apologizing if he's not actually gonna change? Which I feel is really interesting, because until that scene where he confesses everything in Saul Gone, Chuck was proven right, had been proven right by that point, and then Jimmy finally proves him wrong by actually admitting to the shit and actually accepting like the consequences for his actions, because before that he never would, the man who never would. And I just find it like captivating how their relationship is like the crux of the show, even like way after Chuck died, because obviously you have Jimmy not dealing with Chuck's death like basically at all, even though he's the cause of it, until Saul Gone. Like, he doesn't mention it, but you can tell it's hurting Jimmy. He just doesn't want to admit it, because if Chuck said, oh, you never mattered all that much to me, which is also untrue, Jimmy wants should be the same. He's like, oh, Chuck doesn't matter all that much to me either. Like, I'm not gonna let his death affect me. And so, yeah, there's a lot of layers to their relationship that I really love. Yeah.
Yeah, but like Grant mentioned it, just through that, but that last scene is like subtly establishing that that's the moment that Jimmy would go back and change if he could.
Yeah.
Because that was the last time that there was any real sort of attempt to sort of reach out.
Yeah, to create this line of communication instead of always having the same conversation, as Chuck says.
Yeah, because they just sort of like, there's always just this sort of tension that's just sort of unspoken until just like it all comes out. But Chuck's always just got this sort of assumption that Jimmy's like, he's up to something.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy's always very defensive of that, and he just assumes that Chuck's going to assume that, so it just creates this sort of barrier in the conversation between them just all the time. And like, there's that one chance to sort of like Chuck tries to get past that just once, and tries to like actually just get him to spend time as brothers, but Jimmy just sort of pushes it away, and then they just lose the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And
from that comes all the rivalry throughout the first 3 seasons. Just that if he had changed that one thing, so much would have been different in the show. If he'd actually like was able to open up to Chuck.
Yeah, and I think there's like a lot of small detail that sort of says that it was like the last time they saw each other as well, before the first episode of the series. Well, it was like the day before or something, because they mention, like Jimmy mentions that the newspaper stand might be selling the Financial Times, and he'll be back for that the next day. And then in the very first episode, he turns up with the Financial Times, and he mentions that it's the first time that Chuck's had that magazine for a while, and yeah, just it's a very sort of tiny sort of detail, but it just sort of places it in a timeline. And
it's interesting because it's interesting because it's what I said about, like, it being before. It has the implication of it being that if he could change that moment, if he could actually have that have a time machine and have that conversation with Chuck, that the entire show would be different, and making it like the last time that they talk before the show starts makes the implication even stronger, I guess, because it is like the last time. So that's a good catch, actually. I like that as a detail.
Yeah, it's just quite a heartbreaking sort of relationship it ends up being. Just how easy it could have been for them to like resolve these things, but then that just comes to this point where they never really tried to get past that sort of barrier, and it just gets wider and wider until it just sort of splits them completely.
Yeah, I think quite a telling moment as well that Jimmy regrets not having had that conversation with Chuck is geez, I don't remember. I think it's after he confesses everything to Chuck about what about changing the document, and that's what caused Mesa Verde to stop working with whatchamacallit, AJ Jam. It's the when they're like tearing down all the like space blankets and shit, like the from the walls, and Jamie starts to like reminisce about certain memories, and they actually like they have a little bit of a conversation that's like, oh, hey, brothers remembering their childhood and whatnot. And then I'm pretty sure Chuck says it. It's like we can't really do this. Like, we can talk as if we're brothers and everything's okay. Like the time has passed. I think he says something like that. Like, we're past that point. And I don't know. I really love that. Like, the show kind of remembered that, and it's like, yeah, that's the one thing he would change, and it would have had to be before that. But it is part of something that has been shown by his character before quite a bit, and I think that moment is like the most explicit one in terms of that specific thing Jimmy wanted to change in terms of his life if he had a time machine. And is there anything else?
I think Chuck's death scene was super haunting. Like, just the way like everything happens in that finale for season 3
Right.
really creeped me out, honestly. Just like the way he tears up his house as he's just kind of like slowly just losing his mind, and just hearing it, like just his kicking when he's like trying to knock the lantern over. I was like, dude, please stop. This is like creeping me out. I feel like I'm in a horror show right now, and I don't need that.
Yeah, no, that I think it's important to make that scene like so visceral to understand how real it is, how much Jimmy's antics, how much Jimmy's chicanery affected Chuck and got him to that point. Yeah.
Right. No, I understand like it needs to be that way, but it was still definitely just like that shit creeped me the fuck out when I first saw it.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, I really like the way that episode's structured. Just
And then
the way it ends, like
I can't imagine just after that like having to wait like a whole year just to see fucking Jimmy's reaction. Like, oh, what a wait that must have been for some people.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I started watching the show and it came out too, but then like I just kind of stopped because I was just like, yeah. But like, that's just because I had bad taste at that point still.
When I watched it was right before season 5 started, so I watched all 4 seasons. I binged all of them in like a week because I just love the show so much. I don't know. Do you have anything else that we want to talk about? Does anyone have anything to say in terms of Howard? Because I think Howard is a good character.
I like Howard a lot.
Same.
He starts off like, they make him at the start as like sort of really sort of generic dickhead businessman, and then you get this twist of Chuck, and then like just from then on you sort of get a much different impression of Howard.
Well, that's something that Vince has mentioned a lot as well, is that Howard didn't do anything wrong in season 1. We just got the wrong impression of him because he was covering for Chuck. But
yeah,
he's a good guy, and I think by the end of the show, like there isn't many things wrong he did. Like I think he mistreated Kim once when he sent her to the mailroom, but that's kind of it. Like he's a good guy.
Yeah, it's made clear that he has like this massive sort of admiration for Chuck, and he just wanted to sort of do things his way. So, which just sort
I
of,
think that's all I can really say about not Chuck, Howard too. I don't really have much to say about him. I'd kind of agree with that, but to be honest, I also kind of find his voice annoying. I don't know why. It just sounds
I like.
something about it is just a certain like stereotypical sound to me, and it's just it gets me. I don't know why.
Well, I like his voice because he has that like the way he speaks is a
Oh yeah.
very specific corporate speak, I guess.
Yes, thank you. It's like the typical corporate shit, and I'm just like, I can't.
I like it. Because he gets more depth, and I think especially Patrick Fabian's acting in the scene he dies. Fucking hell, that monologue is phenomenal. Because I think a lot of Howard's character comes from like the idea that he's just put in these situations because he's caught in the middle of first Jimmy and Chuck's shit, and then Kim and Jimmy just wanted to fuck with him because they don't like him. But it's not like he's done many things wrong, and this like ruined his life and his wife's life, just like for fun. And he's trying to get it together, and we see, I think especially one thing that I love is how season 4 we see him like going through a lot. Like we see he started going to a therapist and everything because he was very like not doing well. There's a moment where he talks to Jimmy and Jimmy's like, oh, it's something you're gonna have to bear, but I don't really care. And just like, Howard saying he feels just responsible for Chuck's death in a sense. And Jimmy is just like, and after when we see Howard he's actually doing better, he's actually gone through like, I guess, the grief of losing Chuck and understanding his part, the part he had to play in it. And Jimmy seeing that and being like, he's well adjusted. Jimmy's kind of like, you don't deserve that, like you shouldn't, no, fuck you. And that's why he throws a fucking bowling balls in his car. And Jimmy becomes so resentful of him. It's because Howard is actually like, he's gone through so much, him and his firm, but he always bounces back. And Jimmy thinks like, no, you don't deserve that. Like I've been through so much shit, and nobody respects me still. And you've been through a lot of shit, and you always bounce back. Like that's not fair, even regardless of it's emotionally or just like a reputation or anything. So the way he relates to Jimmy in that sense, and why Jimmy wants to scam him in season 6 is really interesting. So I don't know. I think Howard is a really great character, and I think people sleep a little bit on him because, he is a secondary character after all, but he's also like, he has this it definitely has some depth that is only shown through like some subtle moments where he shows, his true self, because a lot of the time he is showing this corporate image of himself because he needs to, because if he doesn't, he's gonna fuck with this firm. And so destroying his reputation in that sense, Kim and Jimmy doing that, I think it is such a like a blow to, like a tragic moment to his character, and to their plan, because it makes him to, like, the one thing he wanted to hold dear was his reputation, while everything else in his life may have been falling apart. He's still trying because it's just who he is. He's not gonna give up until he can, I guess, fix these things. Like he's trying to fix his marriage and he's trying to fix his firm and everything. And yeah, I don't know. Also adore the scene where he there's that Chuck painting right just before the fucking meeting he's gonna have in season 6, and he mentions the thing that Chuck did with the like soda cans, that if you keep turning them, something about like the centrifugal force makes it so that if you even if you dropped it, it's not gonna like explode. And it's just like these little things, like these glimpses of what Chuck left and how much Howard appreciates Chuck, but like the world is kind of forgetting Chuck. I think that scene is just really great. So yeah, I don't know, I really like Howard.
Hold on.
What'd you say?
Oh shit, nothing.
All right. Well, anyway, I think this is all we have for today.
I was gonna say, I think I've had everything to say. With these three things. I spoke a lot on El Camino because I think that's probably. I think Better Call Saul's the best, but like I would say El Camino is probably my favorite out of the three. And well, I mean, we can gush more about Better Call Saul, but I think everything important I've had to say about it has been said, especially with comparison to Breaking Bad. And then, well, Breaking Bad's Breaking Bad, so great.
Yeah. If anyone has anything else to say before we leave, Tin Zod.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I've got anything else to say.
I think the best thing to come out of the Gene timeline was finding out that Huel got out of that room. That was
The one thing we needed an answer for, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, better fuel Huel. It's gonna be great, guys.
Yeah. Well, I think this is all we have for today then, guys. I'm sorry if I wasn't as energetic as I usually am because yeah, my throat is killing me right now. But thank you all for watching. Thank you, Ethan, for coming on. You were a great guest. Well done. I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And Sky thinks she's gonna be Saul. Oh man. Fuck's sake, Ethan.
What?
You said that in the chat.
There's another Etanous in chat? That's crazy.
Oh yes, of course there is, yeah. Fucking wild, isn't it? Well, anyway. Thanks everyone for watching. Yeah, that's all. That's all, folks. Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. If you haven't watched any of these,
Better Call Saul.
Better Call ECUM. No. But yeah, if you haven't watched these shows before hearing us talk about it, you should have. But if you haven't, I hope we convinced you that they are worth worth checking out at least. Though these are like part of one of the biggest TV franchises in the world. So you probably already know about these things, but it's always good to hear praise for the making of these things. So I hope y'all enjoyed
more
it.
viewers than the NFL, so that says something.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, thanks everyone for watching. We'll catch y'all next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.